Every time someone from the Invincible universe fights another super person, people act like it's close, but it never is. And in this video, I'll break down every fight from an Invincible character and why it's not close. Everyone thinks that Omni-Man versus Metro Man would be an epic battle between two superpowered alien titans, but it's not even close, and I'm going to break down every reason why this fight ends before it even begins. Starting with where they come from, because origins shape everything, Omni-Man, otherwise known as Nolan Grayson, is not the savior that Earth believed him to be. He's Earth's conqueror. Coming from the warlike alien race known as the Viltrumites, Omni-Man is a member of a species of hyper-advanced aliens bred for war and galactic conquest. From birth, he was trained to kill, to dominate, to conquer. The Viltrumites are evolution's cruelest experiment, genetically engineered over centuries through blood-soaked survival of the fittest. Only the strongest were allowed to live. Mercy was a weakness, compassion a liability. Omni-Man is a reflection of that ideology. Ruthlessly efficient, incredibly powerful, and utterly loyal. He was sent to Earth under the disguise of a superhero.
We run teams of superheroes to protect our planet from whatever dangers might arise. You don't look like you're from around here.
In reality, he was an agent of conquest, tasked with weakening Earth's defenses so the Viltrum Empire could bring Earth under its rule. He only saw his mission and his loyalties while maintaining the life of a double agent, at least until internal conflict and his relationship with his human family began to fracture that loyalty.
No, I don't trust you. Not anymore. You broke that.
Let's be clear, Omni-Man is not just strong, he's a planetary level threat who has wiped civilizations from existence. He's torn through cities like paper, slaughtered entire superhero teams that include speedsters, mages, and immortals in minutes, and flown enough to take nuclear level hits without flinching, and fast enough to blitz supersonic jets mid-flight. In another instance from the comic, Invincible, Thetis, and Omni-Man flew through the core of the planet Viltrum, withstanding its heat and destroying it completely. But more importantly, he's ruthless. We've seen him decimate entire armies and beat his own son nearly to death without hesitation.
Don't do this! It's not too late! Yes, it is.
He doesn't stop. He doesn't pull punches. There are no limits or rules. He's not even here to save anyone. He's here to win. He single-handedly turned Earth's greatest heroes, the Guardians of the Globe, into red stains on the wall. Not in a fair fight, not in a desperate battle, but in a premeditated massacre. Why? Because they were in the way. Omni-Man isn't a protector, he's a dominator. And when his own son Invincible tried to stop him, Nolan gave him a lecture about why he is wrong while literally beating his face into the side of a mountain. He's not a villain in the traditional sense. He's a true believer of genetic supremacy. He doesn't want your surrender, he expects it. And if you don't give it, he takes it.
I know.
Metro Man, to most people, is a parody, a Superman stand-in, a punchline. He's a mysterious alien raised on Earth after crash landing there as a baby. But that's only because they weren't paying attention. Behind the Chad appearance, the silver microphone, and the flowing cape, Metro Man is something much more terrifying.
And I love you, random citizen.
Because parody doesn't mean powerless. Born with super speed, super strength, flight, laser vision, invulnerability, and the ability to hear across the planet, Metro Man was functionally omnipotent in his world. But most important, he's faster than time itself. He seems like a smiling, soft-spoken superhero from a comedy movie. But don't let that fool you, because when you break it, Metro Man doesn't just win. He erases the idea of a fight. Metro Man was born a god. Raised as a child prodigy, worshipped as a protector, he never had to grow into his powers. They were always there. He has super hearing so great that he can hear the cries of ants miles away. He didn't train to be powerful, he simply was. But here's where it gets scary. Metro Man is fast enough to move while time appears to stand still. He doesn't dodge lasers, he moves after they've been fired and still gets out of the way. In one scene, the most important scene, he pretends to die. The world believes he was vaporized. But in reality, Metro Man moves so fast he faked his own death by stepping out of existence. He didn't just outrun an explosion, he outran expectation itself. Metro Man is so fast that time becomes a suggestion.
Even he could survive that. Well, let's not get our hopes up just yet.
And this brings us to the core difference between them. Omni-Man fights because it's his duty. Metro Man doesn't fight because he no longer has to. That's not cowardice, that's self-awareness born out of wisdom. Omni-Man is a warrior, an apex predator honed in blood and sharpened by genocide. But Metro Man? He's past the point of needing to prove anything. He doesn't fight for dominance. He's not trying to test his strength. He already knows the result. Let's talk about power, because this isn't even a fair category. Omni-Man tore through the Guardians of the Globe like paper. He flew through a moving subway train while holding Mark in front of it, which is a feat of brutality, not just strength. Omni-Man has punched people through buildings, cities, mountains, continents. He's withstood orbital drops and taken on armies alone. He fought his son across the entire planet, tearing apart civilizations in their wake.
Why
In another instance, when Omni-Man returned to the Flaxen's planet after their repeated invasions of Earth, he didn't come as a soldier, he came as an extinction. What followed wasn't a battle, it was an execution. He tore through their capital like a force of nature, ripping apart armies, incinerating fleets, and crushing civilization as if they were paper sculptures. Buildings fell, skies burned, the Flaxens, once bold conquerors, ran like insects before a boot. And Omni-Man didn't stop. He hunted them across their own cities, across their skies, across their world, systematically, ruthlessly, deliberately, until nothing remained. Not a rebellion, not a resistance, just silence. One man, one mission, one message. Earth wasn't theirs to conquer.
You don't seem to understand. Earth isn't yours to conquer.
So, okay, what about Metro Man? He leaned on a building and it collapsed. He caught Megamind's ship mid-air and stomped it dead. The scale of destruction is cartoonish, but that's the point. His power obeys Looney Tunes logic with Superman-level seriousness. He's not limited by biology, physics, or pain. He exists in a world where the rules bend around him. That makes him unpredictable. It makes him unbeatable. Metro Man's heat vision is no joke either, and we can see this when Titan receives his powers. Titan, formerly known as Hal Stewart, is what happens when limitless power meets zero responsibility.
I'm okay.
After accidentally receiving Metro Man's powers, Hal gains everything that Metro Man had, essentially becoming a god overnight. But unlike Metro Man, Titan lacks discipline, morality, and mental stability. His strength is raw and unfocused. He can throw cars like baseballs, level buildings with casual punches, and tank missiles without flinching. But it's not his powers that made him dangerous, it was his ego. Driven by rejection and resentment, Titan uses his abilities not to protect, but to dominate. He's not a hero. He's not even a villain with purpose. He's a tantrum wrapped in superpowers, a chaotic force that burns brighter the more he's ignored. And that makes him unpredictable and deadly.
You know what's good for you, Titan. You'll stay out of Metrocity.
You got it.
For good.
We see him destroy the entire city with his heat vision in seconds, crash through buildings like they're made of paper, and routinely throw Roxanne around to prove that he can save her. His powers are a testimony to how much Metro Man can do. Just because we didn't see it in full swing doesn't mean that it's not there. They're both hyper strong, but that's not the defining feature. Because where Metro Man's real strength lies is in his speed. While yes, Omni-Man has moved so fast that he circled the planet in seconds, catching jets mid-flight like they were standing still, tearing through cityscapes before alarms even finish ringing. During his brutal rampage across Earth, he covered miles in the blink of an eye, obliterating structures, enemies, and entire resistance squads before they could react. When he wants you dead, there's no warning, just a sonic boom and the aftermath. His speed isn't just about travel, it's a weapon, a blunt force multiplier that makes his attacks feel instantaneous. And worse, he knows it. But while he is fast, he isn't time-stopping fast. But Metro Man, he didn't just fly fast, he froze time from his perspective. When Megamind fired a death ray at him, we watched the world go still, and Metro Man wrote music, reflected on his entire life, left the planet, and faked his death all before the beam hit. That's not speed, that's faster than even Cecil's teleportation by miles. Metro Man yawned at missiles. Megamind's death ray, a weapon that contains the power of the sun and powerful enough to incinerate anything it touched, and he didn't even flinch. But again, the key is not his strength, it's the speed. Because if you're faster than light, if you perceive time as irrelevant, strength becomes besides the point. And Omni-Man, his greatest strength is his aggression. But against someone who sees aggression in slow motion, that aggression becomes predictable, laughable, futile. If this were a speed contest, Omni-Man wouldn't even see the punch coming before he's vaporized. Metro Man could literally think circles around him before Omni-Man finishes blinking. He can see the punch coming, the reaction to it, the consequences, all before it happens.
Using my super speed, I decided to go clear my head.
Speed is the cheat code, and Metro Man isn't fast. He's unfathomably fast. Time freeze levels of fast. Hyper perception fast. Run around the globe twice while deciding what sandwich to eat fast. Omni-Man would become nothing but a blur, and Metro Man would be gone before the blur even registers. But let's pretend, just for the sake of argument, that speed and power are equal, that Metro Man stands his ground. Then you get into intent. Omni-Man is built for brutality. He doesn't hold back. He won't hesitate to maim, cripple, or kill. He's strategic, calculated. He will absolutely kill you if you're in his way. And he's not above using psychological warfare to break you down. But at the end of the day, Omni-Man fights like a man with limits. He bleeds, he tires, he needs oxygen. He survives by being smarter and stronger. Even while fighting Red Rush, he took many hits. But Metro Man doesn't just beat his opponents, he outpaces them, outsmarts them. He doesn't need to kill you, he just makes you irrelevant. Metro Man doesn't fight. Why? Because he realized something deeper. He was too powerful. He never had to prove himself. He got bored, and that's the scariest part. He wasn't beaten, captured, or broken. He simply chose to walk away. He didn't lose. He transcended the need to fight. Omni-Man is a predator with no conscience, but Metro Man has all the power and still chooses peace. That's not weakness, that's discipline. Omni-Man is dangerous because of his brutality. Metro Man is terrifying because he doesn't even need violence. Because if Metro Man wanted to end a fight, he would. He canonically has never taken any damage. And that's the final nail in this debate. Metro Man left the superhero game not because he couldn't handle it, but because he'd already won. While Omni-Man was busy conquering planets, Metro Man figured out how to go above the game. He saw the endless cycle of violence, destruction, and death and said, I'm done. But that doesn't mean he can't fight, it means he doesn't need to. So let's imagine it. A desolate alien moon. No gravity, no civilians, no tricks, no speeches or distractions. Just Omni-Man and Metro Man, two titans, face to face. Omni-Man doesn't wait. He flies forward at sonic speeds, teeth bared, 1,000 years of violence in his wake. His fist is already swinging, throwing a punch that has shattered skulls and ended battles in seconds. And it hits nothing, because Metro Man is already behind him. Time freezes, Omni-Man's punch is still winding up, and Metro Man has already circled the battlefield, calculated every angle, and analyzed every weak point. He taps Omni-Man on the shoulder. Before Nolan can turn, Metro Man is across the battlefield, arms folded, waiting. Maybe even humming a tune. He doesn't hit back. Omni-Man tries again. Collapsing mountains, shockwaves. But Metro Man is everywhere at once, because he's not just fast, he's untouchable. He lets Omni-Man hit him once, just once, it doesn't leave a mark. Metro Man sighs, then blinks, and Omni-Man is knocked unconscious before he even realizes what happened. Though it might not be a one-shot fight, time will easily show that Metro Man is superior. There is no battle, just inevitability. Because this isn't war, and it isn't just a mismatch either. It's a category error. It's like comparing a tank to the concept of light. Omni-Man is terrifying because he's the top of the Viltrumite food chain. Metro Man is terrifying because he's beyond the concept of combat. He never fights. Not because he can't, but because he already knows how it would end. So, who wins in Omni-Man versus Metro Man? Metro Man. Every time, every timeline, every version. Whether he fights or doesn't. Because either way, he's already faster than Omni-Man's next move. Everyone thinks that Battle Beast versus Superman would be an epic battle, but it's not even close. And I'll be breaking down every reason why. Starting with where they come from, because origins shape everything. Battle Beast was born as Thok, a leonine warrior cursed with unimaginable power and an insatiable thirst for war. Coming from a war-torn world locked in endless conflict, Thok once sought to end the chaos and unite his people. But in doing so, he was cursed. How that happened is never revealed, but he was given unstoppable strength, boundless stamina, and near invulnerability. This curse made him a living engine of destruction. With unmatched mastery of hand-to-hand combat and all known weaponry, Battle Beast became a legend across the cosmos. He tore through the mightiest beings and civilizations, conquering thousands of worlds and earning the dreaded title, the Scourge of the Twin Galaxies. Entire star systems trembled at the whisper of his name. A simple promise of fighting a worthy opponent is enough to win him over, which is how I think Machine Head, a simple gang boss on Earth, was able to hire him. But their alliance brought Battle Beast into direct conflict with Invincible and the Guardians of the Globe. But they ended up being a little more than heroes that he effortlessly defeated and left broken, not even considering them worthy of death.
This battle is beneath me. There is no honor in killing insects.
Later, Battle Beast was captured only to be freed by Omni-Man and Alan the Alien. When he learned there were Viltrumites aboard the floating prison, a race he had never fought before, he demanded that they fight him immediately. He swiftly tore through one of them and, with his bloodlust still raging, he drifted into space, frozen until he was recovered by the coalition of planets. Joining their cause, Battle Beast continued to decimate Viltrumite forces, even using the bodies of dead Viltrumite warriors as weapons against other Viltrumites. But his thirst for a worthy challenge remained unquenched. That challenge finally came in the form of Thrag, the most powerful Viltrumite to ever live. When Battle Beast first went up against Thrag, he was overpowered by the Viltrumite, who who called him a nuisance at best. Later, he was tasked by the Coalition to put an end to his opponent once and for all. Having gotten the best gift, he raced to find Thrag. Their fight was the most hyped and arguably the greatest fight in comic book history. The battle begins where Thrag, already weakened from his previous encounter with the Ragnar, faces off against the Battle Beast. The stakes are high as both characters are known for their formidable combat skills. Battle Beast, with his warrior's code, slices open his own chest to ensure that the fight is fair, demonstrating his respect for Thrag and his desire for an honorable battle. As the fight progresses, the comic captures the ferocity of their exchanges. The panels are filled with dynamic action sequences, illustrating the sheer power of their blows. Thrag, despite his injuries, showcases his tactical prowess, using his experience to counter Battle Beast's relentless attacks. Throughout the 3 days of combat, the environment around them becomes a testament to their struggle, with debris and destruction marking the battlefield. The fight is not just physical. It is a clash of wills, with both characters refusing to back down. In the next issue, we see the tide begin to turn as Thrag, fueled by desperation and rage, starts to gain the upper hand. The final moments are glorious as Battle Beast does nothing but thank him for a worthy fight. Thrag would go on to prove himself as the Coalition's greatest threat. He effortlessly punched through Omni-Man, destroyed entire planets, and reduced top-tier warriors who have literally thrown through Viltrum's core to ash with terrifying ease. Going against him alone is no easy feat, and this makes Battle Beast the embodiment of determination. But even going toe-to-toe with Thrag would not prove that Battle Beast has enough power against Superman, because it all boils down to core beliefs. Superman, on the other hand, was born as Kal-El on the doomed planet Krypton as the son of brilliant scientists Jor-El and Lara. As Krypton was hanging on by a thread, its core destabilized by a catastrophic natural event. Jor-El took desperate action. Determined to save his son from the planet's doomed fate, he constructed a small spacecraft and placed infant Kal-El inside just moments before Krypton was destroyed in a massive explosion. The ship traveled across the stars, eventually crash landing near Smallville, Kansas on Earth. There, the baby was discovered by a compassionate farming couple, Jonathan and Martha Kent, who took him in as their own. They named him Clark Kent and raised him with love, humility, and a strong moral compass. As Clark grew, he began to display incredible powers, gifts granted by Earth's yellow sun and its lighter gravity. These abilities included super strength, flight, heat vision, X-ray vision, super speed, and near invulnerability. Though his origins were alien, his heart and values were shaped by the human family that raised him. Embracing those values, Clark eventually moved to Metropolis, where he pursued a career in journalism at the Daily Planet. There, he assumed the identity of Superman, a beacon of hope, truth, and justice. More than just a hero with otherworldly powers, Superman represents the triumph of nurture over nature. His deep bond with humanity defines him. He chooses to protect, to inspire, and to lead by example, not because he has to, but because it's the right thing to do. This becomes the core difference between them. Superman is the ultimate protector of Earth. In every sense, he stands for everything humanity embodies, a being of near infinite strength guided by compassion and unwavering moral clarity. Battle Beast, on the other hand, represents something far more primal. Raw power, endless rage, and a legacy of conquest. He doesn't conquer for an empire expansion like Omni-Man, he battles for the thrill, for the test, for the war itself. Cursed with invincibility and driven by an unquenchable thirst for combat, Battle Beast is not pretending to be human. He never cared. He's the purest form of a warrior god, and he exists only to fight. Battle Beast only cares about finding an opponent greater than he is. Even when Thrag kills him, he thanks the Viltrumite for giving him a worthy death. But that isn't their only difference. Superman's strength is so immense it bends reality. In more abstract feats, he once entered the metaphysical realm to turn a page in the Book of Destiny, a book whose infinite pages each carry infinite weight. That's a metaphor, yes, but also a feat of cosmic will. In a more concrete sense, he moved the entire planet Earth out of a rogue planet's path. That's not a moment of extreme adrenaline. That's just Superman being Superman. He's held black holes in his bare hands. He's lifted Earth mass simulators near the sun non-stop for 5 days. He has wrestled gods, stopped collapsing dimensions, and torn apart time loops through force and willpower. Battle Beast? He's not a planet mover. He doesn't bend books of destiny, but he breaks warriors. He's fought and killed the most powerful beings across galaxies. He's conquered thousands of worlds, not through technology or armies, but with his own hands. He tore through armies of Viltrumites, used them as weapons, and laughed through it. His battle with Thrag, the strongest Viltrumite, lasted days. A cosmic fest that shattered landscapes and pushed both to the brink of death. When Thrag faltered, Battle Beast cut himself open just to keep the fight fair. That's not a strategy, that's an obsession. He doesn't want to win. He wants to fight someone worthy. Speed becomes a similar comparison. Superman is a blur to anything bound by time. He reacts in microseconds, can fly from Earth to Vega, which is 25 light years away, in minutes, and has crossed the universe in seconds. He's outraced the Flash on rare occasions, even keeping up when Flash taps into the Speed Force. He's disabled global satellite weapons in seconds, caught bullets after they were fired, and dodged light-speed attacks like they're nothing. Battle Beast is fast. Very fast. But he isn't flying between star systems. He doesn't dodge beams at light speed or blitz entire continents in moments. He's never needed to. His durability means he doesn't run from attacks. He runs through them. But if we're talking pure speed and reaction, Superman is in another dimension, literally and figuratively. But even Battle Beast's durability is no match. Superman has taken punches from beings who shatter dimensions. He's tanked Darkseid's Omega beams, which erase people from reality. He's endured sun core level heat, 15 million degrees Celsius, and gravitational pressures that would crush entire planets. And he doesn't just survive it. He absorbs it. There is no real measure to how much Battle Beast can endure. So let's look at it from the view of his greatest opponent. Viltrumites are strong by nature. Omni-Man punches Invincible through buildings, cities, a mountain, and across a multi-mile distance. Conquest does the same and breaks out of a prison weighing 400 tons casually. Thrag is the greatest one of them all. Top tier characters who have flown through the core of Viltrum, withstanding its heat and dramatically destroying it, are routinely one-shotted by Thrag. He gives a brutal beating to anyone who even dares to face him. Standing your ground in battle against such a character is a testimony to Battle Beast's durability. He's walked through cities of flame and armies of monsters. He's not just durable, he's functionally unkillable to most. But cosmic? Abstract? Dimensional? That's Superman's playground. And when it comes to strategy on the battlefield, Superman once again is unparalleled. Here's where most people drastically underestimate Superman. They see the muscles, the cape, the planet-lifting strength, and assume he's just a blunt instrument of force. But Superman's mind is as formidable as his fists. He's not just a fighter, he's a polymath, a philosopher, a leader, and a tactician who has outwitted gods and cosmic entities alike. By trade, Clark Kent is a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist, trained to spot patterns, uncover deception, and think critically under pressure. His years at the Daily Planet aren't just a disguise. They sharpen his ability to analyze situations quickly, observe from multiple angles, and find truth in chaos. These skills bleed into battle, where his instincts often rival Batman's in tactical foresight. But he's also a scientist, raised by Jonathan Kent on a farm but schooled by Kryptonian technology, particularly the teachings of his biological father, Jor-El, whose AI lives on in the Fortress of Solitude. From understanding black holes to building containment fields for reality-warping threats, Superman has often solved problems that stump even the greatest minds of the Justice League. In Action Comics number 775, for example, Superman defeats the Elite, a group of brutal anti-heroes, not just through power, but by exposing the moral and tactical flaws in their philosophy. He's also a seasoned battlefield commander. He's led the Justice League in conflicts involving gods, aliens, and multi-dimensional threats. He's worked beside Wonder Woman in ancient warfare, trained in Amazonian combat tactics. He has even sparred with Batman, one of the greatest minds in the DC universe, who has admitted that Superman isn't just raw force, but a quick-thinking, high-adaptable fighter. In the Trinity series and others, the synergy between Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman isn't just about power balance, it's about strategic harmony. In terms of raw experience, Superman has lived through centuries in alternate timelines as seen in All-Star Superman, Kingdom Come, and Superman Red Sun, adapting not only physically but philosophically. He solved 5-dimensional puzzles from Mr. Mxyzptlk, debated with cosmic intellects like Brainiac, and withstood the mental assaults of telepaths like Manchester Black and Martian Manhunter. He also speaks every known language on Earth, learned through exposure, Kryptonian memory implants, and sheer will. Beyond that, he's fluent in Interlac, the universal language of the 30th century legion of superheroes, the Martian dialect, and various Kryptonian dialects, making him invaluable in diplomacy and alien relations. In Superman Up in the Sky, he tracks a kidnapped child across space-time, navigating hostile worlds using his intelligence just as much as his strength. Even in combat, Superman doesn't just punch, he calculates. He's shown in multiple comics like Superman for Tomorrow and GLA, Tower of Babel, to analyze his opponent's psychology, physiology, and environment mid-battle, finding precise pressure points, weaknesses, and non-lethal ways to neutralize threat. And it's not all theory. Superman was trained under Wildcat in boxing, under Batman in stealth and tactics, and under Wonder Woman in divine combat. He's absorbed strategies from alien species, new gods like Orion, and warrior cultures across galaxies. So when Superman enters a fight, he's not just bringing strength, he's bringing centuries of knowledge, a mind enhanced by Kryptonian genetics, a heart trained in journalism, diplomacy, and morality. The kind of battle-tested wisdom that only a being who has fought alongside gods and humans alike could possess. In short, Superman doesn't just win with might, he wins with mind, method, and meaning. Battle Beast in comparison does not even hold a candle to this. He's a warrior through and through. He's war incarnate, a living embodiment of conflict forged not in training halls, but in blood-soaked battlefields that stretch across stars. He wasn't taught to fight, he was built for it. From the moment he was cured with power, his path has been one of relentless, unending combat. And in that process, he didn't just become skilled, he became a monster of martial perfection. Over lifetimes, Battle Beast mastered every form of known weaponry, from blades and hammers to alien plasma axes and gravitic chains. He doesn't use weapons, he becomes them. He's fought the greatest champions of thousands of worlds and left their civilizations in ruin. His reputation alone was enough to instill fear across galaxies, so feared that many refused to speak his name aloud, choosing superstition over courage. That's not a legend, that's a precedent. But here's where the contrast becomes stark. Battle Beast doesn't adapt, he doesn't evolve, he endures. Strategy? Tactics? Formation? They're irrelevant to him. His approach is pure primal dominance. Overwhelm, overpower, destroy. While others assess terrain or weigh risk versus reward, Battle Beast charges headfirst because for him, there is no scenario where he should not be the victor. His instincts are refined to an art. Yes, he can read attacks, respond with vicious precision, and dismantle entire squads in seconds. But that's reaction, not reflection. He's a lone wolf, not because he prefers solitude, but because no one survives long enough to fight beside him. His battles are duels, even if he's surrounded. He doesn't coordinate with allies, he outpaces them. He doesn't set traps, he breaks through them. And in moments where a tactician would retreat to regroup, Battle Beast surges forward even if it means death, because for him, a glorious end in combat is not failure, it's fulfillment. There is a brilliance to his savagery, but it's the brilliance of a hurricane, not calculated, not flexible, but unstoppable. He once tore through Viltrumite warriors using their own corpses as weapons. He doesn't outthink his enemies, he outlasts them, he outbleeds them. And if he dies, he does so with a grin. But this also marks his limit. While Superman learns from every opponent, Battle Beast challenges them to break him. Where Superman shifts tactics mid-fight, Battle Beast doubles down. Where Superman views each life as something to protect, Battle Beast sees life as a test to be survived or ended. He is a glorious engine of destruction, but not a general, not a tactician, and certainly not a leader. In the end, Battle Beast isn't built to win wars. He's built to die in one. But through all of this, Superman's greatest strength is restraint. It's easy to be overwhelmed by his power, to see the heat vision, the speed, the strength to drag planets behind him and assume that is what makes him invincible. But the truth is far more profound. Superman's power isn't defined by what he can do. It's defined by what he chooses not to. He could end most battles before they begin. He could crush bones with a flick of his finger, silence tyrants with a glance, vaporize entire armies in a moment. But he doesn't, because Clark Kent, Kal-El, believes in something greater than power. He believes in light, in mercy, in giving people a chance to be better even if they don't deserve it. He holds back not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because when gods walk among mortals, only one thing prevents them from becoming monsters: choice. But make no mistake, when that choice is taken from him, when innocent lives hang by a thread, when diplomacy fails and the monsters refuse to stop, Superman doesn't hesitate. And when he cuts loose, even cosmic deities falter. The ground trembles, time distorts, the air ignites. Superman unleashes truth, and it comes in the shape of a fist moving faster than thought, backed by a soul forged in hope. He ends wars in seconds. He silences chaos with absolute precision. No mess, no cruelty, no ego, just justice. Now, let's look at Battle Beast. He has no concept of restraint, no dial to turn down. He is all fire, no filter. A warrior who doesn't fight to protect, or to restore, or even to win. He fights to fight. Every blow he throws is meant to kill. Every enemy is a test, not of morality, but of endurance. And if they fall short, if they die screaming in his wake, he offers no remorse. No reflection, just a growl and the hunger for the next worthy opponent. It's not bravery, it's a mania, a curse disguised as strength. He doesn't want peace, he doesn't believe in it. In fact, he fears it, because peace means the battle is over, and if there's no battle, who is he? That's the total difference. Superman fights because he has to. Battle Beast fights because he needs to. One seeks to end suffering, the other thrives in it. Superman can break worlds, but choose to heal them. Battle Beast can tear through legions, but never one stops to rebuild what he destroys. And when the dust settles, that difference echoes loudest. Because Superman doesn't just win, he brings closure. He ends the fight decisively, surgically, with precision born from principle. No wasted motion, no collateral carnage, just what needs to be done. Battle Beast never finishes anything. He kills, he conquers, then he leaves. There's no arc, no conclusion, just a trail of blood and hunger that never fades. So when they collide, when restraint meets rage, only one walks away in control. Superman doesn't fight to prove he's the strongest. He fights to prove that strength alone is not enough. Superman is a symbol. He's the ideal. He's what power looks like when guided by love and principle. Battle Beast is a warning. He's what happens when power serves only the ego, when the purest of strength overtakes the reason to fight in the first place. Superman chooses humanity, Battle Beast rejects it. Superman protects life, Battle Beast tests it. Their stories are both powerful, but their values are fundamentally opposed. This isn't a rivalry, it's a moral mismatch. In the end, Battle Beast is a god of war. Superman is a god of mercy. One fights because he wants to, the other because he has to. Battle Beast is glorious, brutal, and unforgettable, but Superman is inevitable. Let's imagine it. No kryptonite, no tricks, no backup, no speeches, no limits, just Superman and Battle Beast. Neutral ground, a barren world forgotten by time. No civilians to save, no cities to protect, just endless terrain and an open sky. A place where restraint has no reason to exist. Battle Beast doesn't wait. He never does. He charges with a roar that cracks the air, eyes glowing with bloodlust, his war axe raised high. It's not strategy, it's instinct. It's a need. A single downward strike and it connects. Superman doesn't dodge. He lets it happen. The weapon bites. It cuts skin that's withstood black holes. Blood, Kryptonian blood, is drawn. Battle Beast grins. Finally, a worthy fight. Then, Superman moves. No words, just a blur. A punch faster than thought, faster than Battle Beast can process, connects with his chest and sends him crashing through mountains, through oceans, into orbit. The impact alone shifts the planet's axis. But Battle Beast is laughing. He claws his way from a crater the size of a city, shakes off molten rock, and launches himself back into the battle. What follows isn't a fight, it's war. They collide again and again, trading strikes that rupture tectonic plates. Shockwaves flatten landscapes. Volcanic eruptions ripple in their wake. Clouds spiral into unnatural patterns. They brawl across oceans, into the stratosphere, through the moon's crust, and back again. A storm of muscle, will, and fury. But Battle Beast doesn't adapt. He just endures. Every attack he throws is raw, primal, and predictable. He's a beast, relentless, ferocious, but single-minded. Superman adapts. He studies each movement, each pattern, each tell, and slowly, methodically, he begins to outpace him, to outthink him. He doesn't just match strength, he leverages intellect, tactics, timing. Battle Beast lands hits, but fewer. Superman starts landing more, harder, and then he decides to end it once and for all. A blinding solar flare burst, channeled with surgical focus, engulfs Battle Beast. His armor melts, his axe vaporizes mid-swing, then a strike faster than sound, then light, then thought collapses the very space around them, warping gravity, halting momentum. Battle Beast is dazed. For the first time, he hesitates. Superman grabs him. A grip like the core of a dying star. Crushing. Not to kill, but to stop. The resoluteness and a calm composure, he ends the fight. Battle Beast fails, unconscious or broken, it doesn't matter. There's nothing left to prove. The warrior got his fight, and Superman? He gave it everything and still held back just enough. So, the answer to who would win in Battle Beast vs. Superman? The answer is obvious. No matter the version, the universe, or the arena, Superman walks away every time. I thought I understood power scaling until I analyzed Omni-Man vs. Gamma Jack. What I discovered completely changed everything I believed about superhero fights. So in this video, I'm going to reveal why it isn't even close, show you the one factor that makes victory impossible for one of the characters, and expose the shocking difference that ends this fight before it even begins. And trust me, what you're about to learn will change how you look at every superhero battle comparison. Now, here's what most people don't realize about Omni-Man's true power level. Omni-Man has superhuman strength, is able to easily lift immense amounts of weight, tear through virtually any matter, and only continues to gradually grow stronger the more he struggles and ages. But that's just the surface. I've analyzed his most casual feats, and they are terrifying. Omni-Man was punching Mark so hard that he was shaking entire mountains, and doing this repeatedly. In fact, Omni-Man was sending Mark all over the planet, causing earthquakes each time he landed. And remember, he was holding back against Mark. But here's where it gets crazy. This wasn't even serious combat. Nolan was trying to convince Mark to join him, not even kill him. When I realized the implications of this restraint, everything clicked. The sheer scale of destruction from casual punches reveals power levels that transcend human comprehension. Each impact generated seismic activity across multiple tectonic plates. We're talking about force output that rivals natural disasters, delivered repeatedly without visible effort or strain. He's got super speed, is able to close tremendous distances in seconds, and likewise react to the fastest of opponents. This speed advantage becomes the key to understanding why Gamma Jack has zero chance. But there's something even more shocking about Viltrumite travel capabilities that most people miss. The numbers are so extreme that they break conventional physics. I'll reveal it after we examine what Gamma Jack brings to this fight. Now, let me show you exactly what Gamma Jack can do. Gamma Jack's superpower was the ability to create controlled bursts of radiation, from focused burns to complete disintegration. On paper, that sounds devastating. His power came with specific parameters that defined its effectiveness. Radiation bursts, Gamma Jack's primary superpower, was the ability to create controlled bursts of radiation, from focused burns to complete disintegration. The maximum range of this high-intensity burst was 100 meters before a sharp intensity fall-off. Here's where things get interesting. The 100-meter effective range represents optimal combat distance for terrestrial superhero engagements. Within this envelope, Gamma Jack could theoretically engage most opponents with devastating force projection. Complete disintegration suggests atomic-level disruption capabilities. I need to show you something about Gamma Jack's threat level that changes everything. When it comes to raw power, Gamma Jack ranks just below Mr. Incredible on the official scale. Just to reiterate, Mr. Incredible scored a 9.1 threat rating, and Gamma Jack was right behind him with a 7.9, making him one of the top superheroes in the verse. He's literally one of the strongest heroes in his universe. This threat rating places Gamma Jack among the elite combat operatives of his era. The Incredibles universe maintains detailed power scaling assessments, suggesting sophisticated understanding of superhuman capabilities. A 7.9 rating indicates planet-level defensive value. Radiokinetic flight. Using his radioactive powers, Gamma Jack could achieve flight. While flying, he left a faint trail of green-tinged gamma radiation behind him. This gives him aerial mobility advantages. The radiation trail creates tactical complications. Stealth approaches become impossible, but it also provides area denial capabilities. Enemy pursuers would face continuous radiation exposure during aerial engagement scenarios. But what most people don't know about Gamma Jack's psychology will shock you. There's a critical weakness that would doom him against any serious opponent, but first, let me reveal that speed feat I mentioned earlier. Before I do that though, if you're enjoying this video so far and want to join my Discord server filled with other comic fans, click the link in the description now. This is the moment everything changes. When he left Earth, he decided to travel to another planet, and that journey took him about a week. But this wasn't just any planet. This is a planet in the Virgo supercluster, which is 65 million light years away from the Earth. He traveled that span in just about a week, making him massively faster than the speed of light.
You must learn what makes me
Let me put this in perspective for you. The mathematics here are staggering. 65 million light years in 1 week translates to approximately 3.4 billion times faster than light speed. For comparison, information traveling at light speed would take 65 million years to cover the same distance. Gamma Jack operates at human reaction speeds. His nervous system processes information at roughly 100 meters per second. Omni-Man moves at significant fractions of light speed, billions of times faster than human cognitive processing. When I calculated the math, I couldn't believe the results. By the time Gamma Jack's brain processes that Omni-Man has moved, Nolan could have circled the Earth thousands of times. The human visual system requires approximately 13 milliseconds to process basic movement detection. In 13 milliseconds, moving at a billion-fold light speed, Omni-Man could traverse the distance between Earth and Mars multiple times. The temporal mismatch eliminates any possibility of tactical response or defensive measures. Omni-Man put down the Guardian even faster. They didn't even have the chance to react to his attacks. He's well faster than Invincible during their first fight. Invincible is legitimately moving in slow motion. The Guardians were Earth's premier superhero team, and they appeared frozen relative to his movement. But here's what really made me realize this matchup is impossible. Red Rush was a speedster, and even he couldn't react. Like, he was blatantly faster than Red Rush, and he couldn't even react to him grabbing his head and bashing it together with another Guardians. Whereas in the show, they're pretty relative in speed, with Red Rush being slightly faster. If a super speedster can't track Omni-Man, what chance does a human have? Red Rush represented Earth's fastest defender, optimized specifically for velocity-based combat and reconnaissance. His superhuman reflexes and accelerated perception should have provided adequate reaction time against conventional threats. The fact that Red Rush appeared motionless relative to Omni-Man's combat speed demonstrates power scaling that transcends terrestrial superheroes entirely. When dedicated speedsters cannot track your movement, you operate on cosmic scales. Now, I need to show you that critical flaw I mentioned. The NSA files also describe him as a super supremacist, believing that supers are a superior race, and that he's frequently prone to tyrannical and megalomaniacal impulses. This arrogance would prevent him from recognizing the true threat. The supremacist mindset creates catastrophic blind spots in threat assessment. Gamma Jack's worldview assumes his power tier represents the apex of possible opposition. Cosmic level threats simply don't register within his conceptual framework. But it gets worse. Choosing to prioritize women he finds most attractive in a dangerous scenario, and then working down the list, looking down at anyone he finds unattractive and saving them last. His tactical decisions are based on attraction, not strategy. This represents fundamental combat dysfunction. Professional military engagement requires objective threat prioritization based on tactical necessity, not personal preference. Gamma Jack's decision-making process would collapse under serious operational pressure. When I discovered this next detail, I realized Gamma Jack isn't just outmatched. He's fundamentally unprepared for serious combat. He gets so damn bad horny when encountering a female supervillain and nonchalantly describes his frustration and difficulty with having to kill them, and the fact that unlike every other hero in these tapes, he is incredibly open about the fact that he just straight up kills people. An opponent who can't maintain tactical focus would be obliterated. The psychological profile reveals someone who treats superhero work as personal gratification rather than professional responsibility. His casual approach to lethal force suggests overconfidence born from facing inferior opposition. Compare this to Omni-Man's clinical efficiency. In addition to having all the generic powers and abilities of a Viltrumite, Omni-Man ranks among the most powerful Viltrumites to ever exist, physically stronger than most and a master combatant with centuries of experience. 2,000 years of conquest experience versus a distracted Golden Age hero. Omni-Man possesses immense longevity. This stems from a decelerated aging process, gradually aging slower the older he gets, allowing him to retain his youthful health, vitality, conditioning, and appearance for an incalculably long time. At over 2,000 years old, he has only begun to show signs of aging while still physically performing in his prime. Millennia of combat refinement versus decades of casual superheroics. But here's the factor that makes this completely impossible, and it's not what you think. Remember that 100-meter effective range thing I mentioned? His attacks were effective up to 100 meters, after which the intensity obviously dropped pretty sharply. This became meaningless against faster-than-light opponents. Let me show you why. If Omni-Man approaches at even 1% of light speed, speed, he covers 100 meters in 0.000000033 seconds. Hopefully I got that right. Human reaction time is roughly 0.25 seconds for visual stimuli. The temporal mathematics create impossible scenarios. Visual processing requires light to travel from Omni-Man's position to Gamma Jack's eyes, then neural transmission to the brain, cognitive recognition, decision-making, and finally motor response initiation. By the time Gamma Jack sees Omni-Man, processes the threat, and initiates his radiation burst, Nolan has already crossed the engagement envelope 7.5 million times. This isn't even close. It's mathematically impossible. The 100-meter range assumes both combatants operate within similar time frames. When one participant exists in accelerated temporal reference frames, range advantages become theoretical abstractions. He is nigh invulnerability, immune to all forms of illness or contamination, and able to withstand physical harm from all but the strongest of dangers. But even if radiation is somehow connected, Viltrumite physiology operates on cosmic scales. While still needing air, Omni-Man can endure weeks holding his breath and likewise can survive the vacuum of space unprotected, allowing for unaided interstellar travel.
I stepped when I am not there. I sleep beneath the golden. As you go down, it is neither stop. When I am on a pedestal.
Space exposure includes radiation levels far exceeding anything terrestrial sources produce. Cosmic radiation represents energy densities that dwarf planetary sources. Solar wind carries charged particles at hundreds of kilometers per second. Galactic cosmic rays achieve energies measured in joules per individual particle. Here's something that shocked me when I researched Viltrumite weaknesses. Viltrumite skin is very hard to penetrate due to its incredibly fast healing factor. However, the healing factor is broken down when exposed to intense heat. This requires stellar level temperatures. Stellar core temperatures reach 15 million Kelvin. Surface temperatures of massive stars exceed 50,000 Kelvin. Gamma Jack's radiation operates at human scale energy outputs designed for terrestrial matter disruption. The gap between terrestrial radiation and stellar heat is astronomical, quite literally. Nuclear weapons achieve temperatures of roughly 100 million Kelvin for microseconds. Even these extreme conditions represent a fraction of stellar core energy densities. Gamma Jack's radiation operates at human scale energy outputs. But what really convinced me this matchup is impossible was examining Omni-Man's healing factor. He has an enhanced healing factor, able to recover from all damage he does sustain, except the most grievous harm to his heart or brain, in anywhere from minutes to a single day, depending on the level of harm, with no lingering side effects. Even theoretical damage would heal faster than Gamma Jack could sustain offensive pressure. The regenerative timeline creates tactical impossibilities. If Gamma Jack somehow connected with radiation bursts, the damage would heal within minutes. His maximum rate of fire couldn't match Viltrumite's cellular regeneration rates. He has nigh limitless stamina, able to continue his exertions for long periods of time with no effects to his performance, and endure any damage he does sustain unhindered. Unlimited endurance versus human scale energy reserves. Let me show you why Omni-Man's performance against Earth's premier superhero team proves this matchup is impossible. His joints possess exceptional flexibility, enabling him to perform incredible feats such as effortlessly evading most attacks and maintaining flawless coordination. Even Red Rush, the speedster, couldn't avoid Nolan's attacks. The Guardian Massacre provides crucial combat data for analyzing cosmic tier engagement scenarios. Earth's defenders represented diverse power sets, coordinated teamwork, and decades of combined experience. Aside from Red Rush, Immortal does have the best feats on Omni-Man, and he was the first one that Omni-Man tried to go after, so if Omni-Man views him as his greatest threat, the Immortal possessed comparable strength and centuries of combat experience. Even with superhuman durability, millennia of experience, and tactical awareness of Omni-Man's capabilities, the Immortal fell within seconds. His comparative power levels exceeded anything Gamma Jack could achieve. The tactical implications became even more devastating when examining team coordination factors. The Guardians operated with established communication protocols, predetermined tactical formations, and complementary power combinations. Despite every advantage, numerical superiority, defensive positioning, coordinated attacks, and diverse abilities, the entire team fell before they could mount effective resistance. Individual heroes operating alone face exponentially worse odds. The combat experience differential represents another insurmountable barrier. 2 millennia of conquest conquest operations across multiple star systems provides tactical knowledge that terrestrial heroes cannot match. Gamma Jack operated during Earth's Golden Age, facing human-scale threats with comprehensible limitations. Viltrumite military doctrine emphasizes planetary subjugation through overwhelming force application. Combat training assumes opponents possess diverse energy-based abilities, advanced technology, and coordinated resistance strategies. One of the more important feats listed on Operation Chronos records is that Gamma Jack successfully destroyed Omnidroid version 5, a very deadly combat robot designed by Syndrome to specifically kill the superheroes he's based. Gamma Jack's greatest victory was against 1960s era technology. The Omnidroid represents human engineering optimized for Golden Age superhuman capabilities. Syndrome's understanding of super abilities was limited to terrestrial power levels and human-scale tactical scenarios. The progression from Omnidroid 5 to Omnidroid 6 demonstrates technological advancement within terrestrial parameters. The leap to cosmic tier alien physiology involves exponentially greater capability gaps. However, he was later killed by the upgraded model, the Omnidroid 6. To put that into perspective, Mr. Incredible. Human technology evolution overwhelmed Gamma Jack's combat capabilities. But here's what happens when cosmic tier movement meets atmospheric physics. He flew through a continent-sized city fast enough to where he was literally causing nuclear-level destruction as he flew around. Basically, how that works is that as he reached light speed, or even just under the speed of light, Nolan was hitting molecules and atoms in the air with so much speed and force that it's causing nuclear fusion leveling continent-sized cities. Casual movement creates nuclear-level destruction. The atmospheric physics involved in near-light speed travel create conditions that exceed nuclear weapon effects. Air molecules compressed by relativistic movement achieve fusion-level energy densities. Continental-scale destruction from casual flight patterns demonstrates power levels that transcend conventional superhero conflicts. The battlefield itself becomes a weapon through atmospheric manipulation. Omni-Man's approach would generate sonic booms measured in megatons, electromagnetic pulse effects, and atmospheric displacement equivalent to Category 5 hurricane conditions. The pressure wave alone would incapacitate any human observer before visual contact occurs. Gamma Jack's positioning and targeting became irrelevant when the engagement environment exceeds survivable parameters. His energy blast gave him long-range offensive power. Unlike many suits who need to get up close, Gamma Jack could eliminate targets from a distance with surgical precision. This advantage disappears when facing opponents who can instantly close any distance while generating hurricane force winds. Let me reveal the next factor that makes this impossible. His powers are that he can fire bursts of radiation, which is NSA files described as ranging from focused burns to complete disintegration. Disintegration sounds impressive until you examine the energy requirements. Radiation-based disintegration works by disrupting atomic bonds through electromagnetic interference. The energy required to break molecular structures at range demands massive power output focused through precise delivery systems. Against cosmic tier physiology that survives planetary impacts, this approach faces insurmountable resistance thresholds. Viltrumite cellular density exceeds terrestrial material properties by orders of magnitude. The binding energy of superhuman tissue would require exponentially greater radiation intensity to achieve disintegration effects. Human-scale power sources cannot generate the necessary energy densities. But here's what really sealed it for me. The sustainability factor heavily favors cosmic tier combatants in extended engagements. While Gamma Jack must manage every expenditure and potentially faces fatigue, Omni-Man maintains peak performance indefinitely. The recovery capabilities also demonstrate the futility of attrition-based strategies. Any theoretical damage would heal faster than sustainable offensive pressure could be maintained. When I visualized what this engagement would actually look like, the impossibility became clear. Gamma Jack requires optimal positioning at a 100-meter range with clear sight lines for targeting. The human cognitive architecture cannot process information at the rates necessary to track faster than light movement. Visual cortex processing, decision-making pathways, and motor response systems operate at biochemical speeds. Omni-Man could traverse that distance thousands of times before human visual processing could track his movement. The engagement would end before Gamma Jack's nervous system could process that it had begun. But here's what makes this even more devastating. The psychological impact alone would overwhelm any tactical planning. Facing opponents who violate basic assumptions about physics creates cognitive overload that no human training can prepare you for. The fundamental mismatch in operational tempo creates scenarios where traditional combat becomes meaningless. While Gamma Jack operates on human-scale decision cycles, Omni-Man functions at near instantaneous levels across multiple dimensional scales. I thought I understood superhero matchups until I analyzed what would happen if Omni-Man fought Dr. Doom, and what I discovered completely changed everything I believed about preparation versus raw power. So in this video, I'm going to reveal why it isn't even close, show you the one factor that makes victory impossible for one of these fighters, and expose the shocking difference that ends this battle before it even begins. And trust me, what you're about to learn will change how you look at every superhero battle comparison. But before we get into the real meat of this fight, I need to show you why Doom has survived encounters with cosmic tier threats. This reputation didn't come from nowhere. When I started digging deeper, I discovered something truly terrifying about his intellectual capabilities. Considered to be one of the smartest men on the earth, Doom's high-level intellect rivals his sworn nemesis Reed Richards. But here's what makes this even more dangerous. While Reed Richards uses his intellect for heroic purposes, Doom applies the same level of genius with zero moral restraints. When he restored the Thing's human form, something even Reed struggled with, it showed precision that goes beyond normal scientific understanding. His track record against cosmic beings reveals something most people miss. He leveraged his scientific prowess to steal or replicate the powers of cosmic beings, such as the Silver Surfer, the Beyonder, and even Galactus's world ship. We're not talking about fighting these entities head-on. We're talking about reverse engineering universal level of power sources through pure intellectual superiority. But there's something else that sets Doom apart from every other genius villain. His approach to problem solving doesn't rely on a single methodology. Where other scientists might focus purely on technology or purely on theory, Doom integrates multiple disciplines simultaneously to create solutions that shouldn't be impossible. Moving on to something that could completely change the rules of this engagement. It's an advantage that most people completely overlook when analyzing Doom's capabilities. As the leader of a sovereign nation, Dr. Doom often visits the United States or the United Nations for political reasons and enjoys diplomatic immunity. This isn't just legal protection, it's a strategic weapon. When Captain America himself had to act as one of Doom's bodyguards during a state visit, it revealed how his political status transcends typical villain classifications.
You seem a little tense, Nick.
I don't like this assignment. Neither should you.
For once I agree with Fury.
And for once, I agree with Hawkeye.
You might be playing the part of the Latvian dignitary right now, but you've never needed a bodyguard in your life. Why are we here?
A very dangerous enemy has placed a price on my head. The Cabal.
If the Avengers are incompetent, why did you ask for us?
I didn't ask for the Avengers, Captain. I asked for you.
Even heroes are bound by international law when dealing with a legitimate head of state. Doom has reshaped Latveria in his own image, renaming both the capital city and castle to Doomstat and Castle Doom respectively. He monitors citizens from Castle Doom and uses Doom bots to maintain order, but the crucial detail is that his people genuinely adore him despite his tyrannical reputation. This means any attack on Doom isn't just an assault on any individual. It's an act of war against a sovereign nation with advanced defensive capabilities. There's another dimension to Doom's capabilities that could fundamentally alter any confrontation before it even begins. The Time Platform is one of Doom's many creations, and using it gives him the ability to travel through time. This led to many memorable events, as Doom can't seem to resist creating alternate timelines every time he uses the platform. But here's what really caught my attention about his temporal abilities. The Time Platform allows Dr. Doom to travel into the past and set up a new reign under different circumstances. Consider the tactical implications. Doom can go back in time, adjust a timeline per his specifications, set up shops as a ruler, and then utilize his new era as a base of operations. Having to beat Doom on his own terms instantly puts any opponent at a tactical disadvantage. This isn't just about preparation time, this is about rewriting history itself to create favorable conditions. When facing an opponent like Omni-Man, Doom could theoretically travel back decades to study Viltrumite weaknesses and develop specific countermeasures. There's something I discovered about Doom that reveals why he's more dangerous after each defeat than most villains are after their victories. When his lust for power led him to sacrifice his long-lost love, Valeria, to demons for magical powers, he gained the equivalent of years of sorcery study instantly. With this power, he trapped Franklin Richards in hell, immobilized Doctor Strange, and neutralized the Fantastic Four. When Reed freed Strange's his astral self and they outsmarted Doom, provoking his demonic benefactors to take him to hell, most would consider this a crushing defeat. But here's what makes Doom truly terrifying: his response to failure. Even when Reed took control of Latveria to dismantle his equipment and planned to trap them both in a pocket dimension, Doom found a way to transfer his spirit into Sue, Johnny, and Ben simultaneously. Reed was forced to kill Ben to stop Doom, showing that Doom's defeats become learning experiences that make future encounters more dangerous. Moving beyond technology and politics, there's another aspect of Doom's power set that reveals why he survived encounters that should have destroyed him. Initially trained by Tibetan monks, his magical powers were later enhanced by his lover, Morgan Le Fay. This isn't someone who dabbled in magic. This is someone who received formal mystical education from some of the most powerful beings in existence. After Doctor Strange relinquished the title of Sorcerer Supreme, he acknowledged Doom's potential to assume that role. Doctor Strange, the premier magic user in Marvel, considers Doom qualified for the highest mystical position possible. His magical mastery enables him to cast powerful blasts, create mystical shields, curse others, and summon demons. The magical spells Doom casts grant him additional powers, including energy absorption and projection, technopathy, dimensional travel, and healing, plus he's able to summon hordes of demonic creatures. Magic potentially offers solutions to problems that engineering can't solve, and Doom has access to both toolsets simultaneously. The combination of science and sorcery creates tactical options that pure technology simply cannot match. Where technology might fail against certain attacks, magical defenses can compensate. Where spells might prove insufficient, technological solutions provide backup alternatives. Now, let me show you what I found when I analyzed the other side of this equation. Understanding Viltrumite capabilities goes far beyond individual power levels. The Viltrumite race didn't become galactic conquerors through luck or superior numbers. They developed a systematic approach to universal domination. Viltrumite physiology grants them extraordinary durability, enabling them to endure extreme physical trauma with minimal injury. Their bodies are highly resistant to most forms of damage, including high-impact collisions, ballistic weaponry, bladed attacks, and powerful energy blasts. Whether exposed to the vacuum of space, searing heat, or catastrophic explosions, Viltrumites remain largely unaffected. But what really shocked me about their expansion methods was the biological component. Viltrumite genetics are incredibly potent and adaptive. They can reproduce with a wide range of species, with Viltrumite DNA overwhelmingly asserting itself in offspring. As a result, children typically inherit predominantly Viltrumite traits and often appearing and functioning almost entirely as Viltrumites. This isn't just conquest, it's genetic assimilation on a universal scale. The more genetically compatible the mate species is, the faster and more reliably the offspring will manifest the full range of standard Viltrumite abilities. When I researched how Viltrumites actually expand their empire, I discovered something that puts their individual capabilities in an organizational context. Their world-conquering committee had 3 broad divisions that reveal the sophistication of their approach. The Scouting Division searched the stars for planets with intelligent life at their tipping point. The Viltrumites were smart because they knew ruling over entirely backward races had no glory, and fighting highly advanced civilizations might be fatalistic. They chose targets at the precipice of major progress. The Outpost Division set up watchtowers in several star systems they were earmarking for invasion. This allowed them to monitor targets, dissuade other interested parties, and mobilize forces efficiently. The Ground Division comprised either soldiers or scientists depending on a planet's response to their offer. If a target would accept their offer, scientists would advance civilization with Viltrumite technology in exchange for complete loyalty. If their offer was rejected, soldiers would descend and systematically eliminate all resistance until complete submission was achieved. When I researched the upper limits of Viltrumite power, I discovered something that puts Omni-Man's abilities in proper context. Cecil Stedman even stated that Conquest is the strongest Viltrumite they'd encountered, suggesting he could potentially defeat Nolan. This means there are Viltrumites operating at power levels that exceed even Omni-Man's capabilities. In a display of sheer brutality, Conquest used Invincible's body as a weapon, slaughtering civilians on a beach and throughout the city, causing widespread destruction and mass casualties.
I don't want you to miss this!
Enough!
The force of their clashes generated shockwaves, underscoring the staggering level of Conquest's strength. He was even able to break Invincible's leg and hand with a single punch. But what really concerned me was learning that Conquest was so powerful, he leveled part of the city by flying directly into Invincible.
Shit.
He effortlessly shattered Adam Eve's energy constructs and ultimately killed her with a single devastating punch through her stomach. This brings us to something that completely changes the scale of what we're dealing with. When I looked into whether Omni-Man could actually destroy planets, I found something remarkable. It took the combined might of Thetis, Invincible, and Omni-Man to destroy Viltrum with a destabilized core. Viltrum has 1.25 the gravity of Earth, and Thetis said that they actually could have died if they messed up their charge toward the planet. While they can't easily destroy Earth-sized planets alone, Invincible, Omni-Man, or Thray could destroy a moon or small planet like Mercury. But there's something else I discovered about Omni-Man's combat efficiency that reveals the scope of his capabilities. Once inside the Flaxen home dimension, he used the Flaxen leader's body to destroy multiple buildings, killing the leader in the process before continuing his rampage. This wasn't just strength, it was psychological warfare combined with devastating efficiency. Moving on to something about Doom that reveals why conventional defeat methods don't work against him, the alien ovoids inadvertently taught Doom how to psionically transfer his consciousness into another being through eye contact. He rarely employs this ability due to his ego about his appearance, but when he does use this power, the implications become terrifying. If his concentration breaks, the transfer can revert, but during the possession, he has complete control over his target's actions. This means even a physical victory against Doom might not eliminate the threat if he manages eye contact during the encounter. The psychological impact alone becomes a weapon. Opponents must avoid not only his technological and magical attacks, but also direct eye contact. This limitation restricts their tactical options and creates openings for his other abilities. Against a straightforward fighter like Omni-Man, this mental discipline requirement could prove decisive. After analyzing everything, I realized that this fight has dimensions that go way beyond just power levels and tactical capabilities. When Omni-Man faced his son Invincible, he utterly dominated the encounter. He tossed Mark around with ease, punching him across continents. At one point, he even used his body to slice an oncoming train in half, resulting in mass destruction and casualties. His overwhelming strength was further demonstrated when he launched Invincible to Mount Everest, causing an avalanche, and then slammed him into the ground, creating a massive crater. Nolan nearly beat Mark to death before ultimately choosing to stop. The psychological impact of this level of dominance becomes a weapon in itself. But Doom brings his own intimidation factors. Doombots present a tactical advantage with his mind replicated so far as they recognize themselves to be the real Dr. Doom. Except when in proximity to the real Doom, the Doombots can cast a wide net of attack, appearing in multiple locations at the same time. When I started looking at actual combat scenarios, I found something that reveals a crucial factor most people overlook. In space, Viltrumites are capable of faster than light travel, crossing vast interstellar distances in a matter of weeks without the aid of technology. This isn't technology assisted. This is purely biological capability. Their reflexes, agility, and reaction times are equally heightened, enabling them to outmaneuver most opponents in combat. Some individuals, such as Anissa, have demonstrated superior speed even among Viltrumites, easily outpacing others like Nolan and showcasing just how varied their abilities can be within the species. However, as a Viltrumite, Omni-Man's ability of flight is aided by very delicate equilibrium in his inner ear, which can be disrupted by a specific frequency. This puts any Viltrumite in crippling pain and prevents them from flying. It can even kill them if the frequency is played intensely for a long time. When I analyzed how interstellar capable beings conduct warfare, I discovered something alarming for Earth-based defenders. While still needing air, Omni-Man can endure weeks holding his breath and likewise can survive the vacuum of space unprotected, allowing for unaided interstellar travel. The battlefield can be anywhere in the solar system. Doom's technology accounts for space operations through his armor's life support systems, but his tactical framework assumes certain limitations that Viltrumites simply don't have. All of Latveria's defensive systems, prepared environments, and technological advantages become theoretical when your opponent can relocate the fight to Jupiter's orbit within minutes. The scale differential creates problems that even Doom's level of engineering hasn't been designed to solve specifically. Most of his preparation strategies assume confrontations occur within range of his support systems and backup resources. This brings us to something fascinating understanding about both fighters' approaches and why certain factors become absolutely crucial. Dr. Doom can go back in time, adjust a timeline per his specifications, set up shop as a ruler, and then utilize his new era as a base of operations. Having to be Doom on his own terms instantly puts any opponent at a tactical disadvantage. But I discovered something troubling when I examined deployment timeframes. Doom often uses Doom bots, his robot doubles, to retroactively explain his actions or erase events from his history. His success often involves extensive preparation, contingency planning, and multiple phases of execution. Dr. Doom's most dangerous weapon is his genius level intellect. Intelligence becomes devastating when it has time to analyze, plan, and implement solutions. But this expertise has specific requirements that may not always be available in every encounter scenario. The matchup ultimately comes down to something that determines every aspect of the encounter, but I can't reveal what happens without showing you one more crucial factor. There are elements about both fighters that most analysts completely miss. Nolan possesses an incredible healing factor, allowing his body to recover from injuries in mere minutes or at most within a few days depending on the level of harm, with no lingering side effects. We're not just talking about taking hits, we're talking about rapid recovery from massive trauma that would permanently disable most beings. But there's something else about how these two approaches to power actually interact when they meet, something that changes everything about this analysis in ways that most people would never expect. The truth about who would emerge victorious depends on variables that go way beyond what we've discussed here. The answer isn't what most people think it would be. Everyone thinks that Thrag vs Superman would be an epic battle between two of the most powerful beings in their universes, but it's not even close. And I'm gonna break down every reason why this fight is over before the loser even knows what hit him, starting with their backgrounds, because where these powerhouses come from shapes everything. Let's talk about the Krypton legend first. What exactly are Superman's powers? We know the man flies around saving lives, but what exactly makes him a formidable opponent in combat?
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race, and if we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty. But
he is not our enemy.
Not today.
Well, for starters, Superman obviously has the power of flight. He's able to travel from place to place within insanely short periods of time and react quickly to all threats, arriving at the scene of a crime in a matter of seconds, giving villains little time to react. Superman's powers of flight open up a whole new world of combat strategy. Think about the possibilities. The ability to fly makes Superman essentially a human fighter plane, or if needed, a stealthy reconnaissance drone. And if that wasn't enough, on top of his prowess for aerial maneuver, Superman's other powers include superhuman strength, the ability to change and modify his bodily appearance, X-ray vision, superhuman healing, and hypnosis. Think back to the way Bruce Lee would beat up people in movies back in the day. That's exactly the scene that usually unfolds when villains try to test the limits of Superman's mercy. His ridiculously high strength not only means that a single punch of his would be enough to put the average man in a coma, it also makes him a ridiculously hardy individual, with a tolerance for pain that exceeds the average man by miles.
My parents taught me to hone my senses on focus on just what I wanted to see, and it hurts. Doesn't.
I mean, try tickling him with a nuke and he probably would come out unharmed with a smile on his face. I mean, this is the guy whose blood quite literally has magical properties and is able to heal those who are fortunate enough to somehow obtain even a small dosage of it. This is the guy that can literally see through walls with his bare eyes, leaving enemies with nowhere to hide. Let's just put it this way. If you think a man like Conor McGregor is scary, well, he is. But compared to Superman, he's a cockroach trying to intimidate a snow leopard. Superman would wipe the floor with the world's most decorated fighters and scoff in the face of knives and guns. It's in his name, and more often than not, those who dare to go against him end up in extremely undesirable circumstances.
We had Luthor on this show many times. Little did we know he was a traitor. Buffoonishly.
Sounds unstoppable, right? But here's the thing about god tier power levels. When your opponent has them too, those advantages vanish. Keep that in mind. I think we all know about Superman's physical prowess, his competence at unarmed combat, but an aspect of Superman that's often overlooked is the insanity of his mental powers. While his body might be worthy of CIA experimentation, equally worthy of marvel is the damn near psychic abilities that are contained in the brain of his, I mean, we all know he can shoot laser beams from his eyes, but how many of you thought twice about his eerie ability to hypnotize others? We're not talking basic hypnosis.
What do you know about the hypnoblasts? They make his face look different in your brain when he wears them so that you know who he is.
Like those clips where magicians are able to put people to sleep. We're talking insanely levels of hypnosis, like being able to erase the memory of an incident completely from the minds of people, or being able to make villains obey his commands and do his bidding as they lose control over their own bodies. I mean, come on, this is completely absurd. You're telling me this is the man you want to fight? He's also able to disorientate and confuse enemies by projecting his voice across extremely long distances. A villain could hear his voice beckoning as if he was right behind them, but in actuality, Superman's miles away.
Crypto, take me home.
Through this ability, villains end up confused, disorientated, and feeling as if they themselves have gone crazy. It is within this state of utter confusion that Superman is able to strike, defeating the enemy through the perfect union of the powers of his body and mind. Now, with all these insane powers, you'd think Superman has this fight locked down, but there's something about his character that completely flips the script, and it's not what you think. It's worth mentioning that although Superman in the original Siegel and Shuster stories was portrayed as a rough and weathered gangster, the Superman we all know and love today is far from who he was back in those early comic days. He's since become far more polished, far less gritty, and far more of a dreamer. I mean, just think about his role in society and the absolute love with which he plays his role. Superman has, to the extent of our knowledge, never received any personal or financial reward for his acts. He even conceals his identity as Clark Kent and expresses great worry on the occasions when someone finds out his true identity. Superman isn't saving lives for a check or for a fame that he will never receive. Superman today represents the archetype of he who gives billions without asking for a penny in return.
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Well, here it's an S. How about
Sir?
He's the human embodiment of altruism, risking his life, putting everything he has up for sacrifice for people he'll never meet again. He's a protector of the innocent, a friend to all humans, and this gray symbol of a compassion that runs selflessly, whereby his love for all others far outweighs his concern for his own safety. No doubt, if it ever came to that and it was really necessary, without even blinking an eye, Superman would give up his life to save a stranger. There's a reason why he's often being used to describe the ideal man. His beauty lies not only in his likability, but his willingness to defy our notions of cost and benefit and give it all up for nothing in return.
Without Superman, can there be a Justice League?
How many battles did we win simply because he was there?
I used to be able to goof around so much because I knew Superman had my back.
He represents, to so many, a dreamer so idealistic that instead of using his powers for personal gain, like the majority of people would have done, he chose to use them to pursue his vision of a kinder world, even when it seems like a losing battle. This is a man who, after he first took the life of a supervillain, felt so regretful that he took a strict vow to, from then on, never take the life of another, no matter how tough it got. He's the human embodiment of mercy, of seeing the good in the most evil, twisted, and corrupted of souls, and of absolute love for his species abiding on a planet that considers him alien. This world's been tough to Superman. He lost his planet, his parents, every single of his kind are not extinct. Such optimism in the face of adversity, this kindness and selfishness, that's exactly what, to generations of teenagers, Superman has represented and continues to represent.
The symbol of the House of El means hope. Embodied within that hope is the fundamental belief in the potential of every person to be a force for good.
Remember this idealism, because when we get to why Thrag might actually win, this compassion becomes his Achilles heel. But first, let's talk about the dictator himself, Thrag. I've earned my command. I deserve to lead. I'm what our people need. I don't care what is decreed. You have earned nothing. All you deserve is death. Those were the very words spoken by supervillain Thrag to his nemesis Omni-Man as Thrag attempted to put Omni-Man's life to a premature close, ending him once and for all in defense of Thrag's authoritarian dictatorship over the Viltrumite population. In my view, and this sentiment is probably shared by many fellow fans, with regards to who is the greatest supervillain of all time, Dr. Doom would take the title, with Thrag being a close second. I mean, need we even speak about Thrag and his ruthlessness? The steely iron with which he ruled over the Viltrumites, stopping at no ends to fulfill his visions, crushing and putting to death all those who dare to disobey?
In order for our people to reach their full potential, we had to remove the weak, but what emerged was unstoppable.
Thrag, in many ways, could be seen as the cosmic book equivalent of an authoritarian dictator, one who believed with irreprehensible conviction in their own competence and vision, one who ruled rather than lead, and cared not at whose expense his plans would succeed. Thrag, in many ways, is comparable to a Viltrumite Gaddafi, giving his subjects only two choices, loyalty or death. Thrag was and is one of the most legendary antagonists the comic book world has and probably will ever see. As the leader of the Viltrumite Empire, Thrag's rule was characterized by a military military-like utility, where every notion of ethics and morality were thrown out the window in favor of his pursuits and bloodthirsty conquests. When Thrag was a youngster, he slaughtered, as a practically invincible fighter on one side of the Civil War, thousands of weaker Viltrumites, believing the weak to be unworthy of life. Thrag punished countless dissidents with death, and the victims of his brutal rule include his very own son.
You abandon your mission to subjugate Earth. Desertion! Unapproved breeding with an inferior species.
And what's worse than a dictator? A dictator who is literally the strongest Viltrumite in all of recorded history. One who is practically invincible and lives life as if it were a game he has all the cheat codes to. Thrag, just like Superman, has extraordinary powers and would turn the average man to toast in a matter of seconds in armed or unarmed combat. Thrag's powers include decelerated aging, whereby Thrag's lifespan runs ridiculously long, with his powers and physical condition deteriorating at a ridiculously low rate. In fact, as time goes on, it seems that instead of degeneration, Thrag seems to grow in strength and power, becoming more and more lethal to any opponent standing in his way. Because of this, Thrag can play the long game. After all, his decelerated aging, paired with his vindictive nature, completely eliminates any chance for an enemy to try his hand at the waiting game. To Thrag, decades of waiting would pass in the blink of an eye, within which he would have grown infinitely stronger and more experienced. As the saying goes, you can run, but you can't hide, and Thrag certainly is not a man that can be triumphed by time. In addition, Thrag, like Superman, is able to fly.
Earth's gravity is weaker, yet its atmosphere is more nourishing. You've grown stronger here than I ever could have imagined. The only way to know how strong is to keep testing your limits.
One aspect of this flight that is unique to Thrag is his ability not just to fly as means of transport, but to levitate above the air in a controlled manner. In a strange world of superheroes, many are able to soar through the air at lightning speed, but not many are able to nimbly levitate a meter or two above the ground, or hover slightly in an act aimed to disorient the enemy.
We can freely move ourselves through physical space. That's how we fly. So we don't have to pivot on our feet and push off the ground. We can literally push off anything. We can create our own leverage.
Thrag has insane control over his flight powers, whereby a transition from flight to sprint can be easily carried out in a fraction of a second. Thrag also has superhuman strength, superhuman speed, insanely sharp senses, an ability to heal himself in the unlikely event that he is wounded, and even power to not just survive, but thrive for extended periods of time in environments absent of oxygen. In short, Thrag's powers are insane, and are the reason he was able to rise to the top of the ranks, ruling with an iron fist over the Viltrumite population. So, we've got a ruthless dictator versus a Boy Scout. Already, you can see the mismatch in mindset. But does Thrag's brutality actually translate to combat advantage? Let's look at his powers and find out. And this is where most people get this matchup completely wrong. In some areas, clearly, Superman has an advantage over Thrag. I know that just seconds ago, I was talking about how ridiculously overpowered Thrag is, but no good villain is without his or her weakness. It's what makes stories interesting. And one of the major gaps in Thrag's proverbial armor is the fact that he's a Viltrumite. This alien species, however powerful, still have biological limitations, one of them being their ears. Yeah, you heard me right. The Viltrumite biology is such that they have extremely sensitive ears. This is what allows Thrag and other Viltrumites to fly at ridiculously high speeds. Ironically though, the extreme sensitivity of their ears can also be used against them. Sound at specific frequencies can be used as an excruciating and even lethal weapon against Viltrumites. With the right technology, or a few tech-savvy friends, Superman could beat Thrag without even landing a single blow by developing a machine that could cause Thrag's eardrums to reverberate with unbearable pain. Even more advantageous to Superman is the fact that Viltrumites are even vulnerable to paralysis if exposed to sound of specific frequencies. Now, as the strongest of all Viltrumites, Thrag obviously is different from other Viltrumites, so it's worth noting that we are unsure of the extent to which these frequencies actually have an impact on him.
Remember that giant lobster you tangled with in Atlantis? Turns out we can transmit it to your earpiece, the one we implanted when you were in our hospital, the one too deep to reach.
But we know for a fact, referencing past events, that these frequencies do have a significant impact on other Viltrumites of great power and competence. So it's hard to believe that Thrag would be able to remain totally unaffected by something which would render the powers of any other Viltrumite being. Perhaps to Thrag, these frequencies would be more so hindrances, impairing him from performing at optimal capacity and hindering only some of his powers. Nevertheless, in this aspect, Superman has a clear advantage over Thrag. The same sounds that have the potential to crush the battle-hardened Viltrumites have no negative impact on Superman himself, so if it were possible for Superman to get his hands somehow on a device that produced such frequencies, Thrag and his gang of Viltrumites would have their abilities significantly impaired.
Bruce, please, I was wrong. You have to listen to me. You don't understand. There's no time. I understand.
Ironically, one of Superman's greatest chances of beating Thrag might be in a magical plant. I'm serious. Thrag, despite having reached damn near demigod status, might be able to be beaten by a well thought out combination of Superman's powers and weapons infused with a plant known as the Klaxis plant. The Klaxis plant is a plant that we know is poisonous to Viltrumites, and Thrag is no exception. The Klaxis plant just might be one of the Viltrumites' few weaknesses. It, by some unknown force of nature, is able to eat away at the powers of Viltrumites should a Viltrumite have the ill fortune of being exposed to contact with the plant. A Viltrumite like Thrag might be mighty, if Superman is somehow able to get his hands on a large quantity of the plant and infuse weapons with the plant's essence, he might be able to weaken Thrag to the point where he's able to beat Thrag in hand-to-hand combat.
Element Man has been called into service for a specific purpose. He can metamorphose into any known substance, even substances foreign to this planet.
We know from experience that the Viltrumites themselves seriously fear the Klaxis plant. I mean, they took the effort to infest the plant on which Klaxis plants grow in the hopes of exterminating this dangerous species of vegetation. And it was none other than Omni-Man himself who actually gifted extracts of the plant to the coalition of planets to be used against the Viltrumites. We know this plant works, and we already know that Superman has powers far greater than the average man, or even the average Viltrumite. Whether or not those skills on their own are sufficient to overpower Thrag is contentious, but with the help of a little resourcefulness with a little cunning wit sprinkled in, Superman just might be able to turn the tables and defeat Thrag, upsetting his undefeated record. The best part, Superman would be able to maintain his solemn vow not to take the life of another. Through the usage of such biological means, excruciating pain would be able to be induced on Thrag, but none of these two methods would, in all likelihood, have a severe enough effect on Thrag to kill him. No matter how strong or powerful Thrag may be, Superman just needs to remember one thing: he's a mortal just like anyone else, and it takes but a single candle to set the mighty fortress ablaze.
I'm as human as anyone. I love, I get scared, I screw up all the time. But that is being human, and that's my greatest strength.
Okay, so now that we've established Superman's clear advantage over Thrag, the answer to who would win a fight between the two of them is obvious, isn't it? Superman would crush Thrag, handing Thrag the first loss of his career, ending his supervillain career in humiliating fashion. Or would he? See, I've mentioned that in some aspects Superman has a clear advantage over Thrag, but get this, in other aspects, Thrag is clearly superior to Superman, likewise giving Thrag an advantage over Superman. So let's not make our verdict so quickly and give our favorite supervillain Thrag a chance to plead his case. You never know, he just might have a fighting chance against Superman and pull off the greatest comeback in history. Remember earlier in the video when I mentioned that Superman is an idealist? I said that Superman was compassionate, kind, and benevolent. He represents hope, courage, and most importantly, a selfless desire to protect the lives of all in pursuit of a better, safer world. Remember that? Well, what if I told you that this isn't a strength? See, when facing a supervillain of Thrag status, Superman's idealism actually makes him susceptible to getting carried with unrealistic ideals, ignoring what is and isn't pragmatic. Superman may have dreams of a better world, but does he truly have the means to execute his vision? And is he willing to compromise his ideals for what realistically will give him an edge over Thrag?
Did it hurt you?
You know, they can't. I wanted to hit that kid. I wanted to hit him so bad.
I know you did. And you just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark.
I don't think so. Superman, in classic Superman fashion, gets in the way of his full potential as a superhero because of his unrealistic ideals. I mean, the man has literally vowed not to take the life of another. How on earth is he going to deal with Thrag then? It's unlikely that Superman would be able to ever land a final defeat over Thrag without killing him. Sure, he might win him in a fight, but Thrag could just get up and try again another day. And unlike Superman, Thrag would finish the job by whatever means necessary, ending our favorite superhero without a moment's hesitation. This unwillingness to kill Thrag really is a major weakness for Superman. Thrag essentially is able to continuously make attempts to kill Superman. If he succeeds in doing so even once, well, Superman can bid this beautiful world sayonara. Superman's also a sentimental dude. He loves his friends and family a little too much, making him vulnerable to being manipulated by Thrag emotionally. I mean, when Thrag starts making threats against Superman's family and friends, Superman is bound to have his judgment clouded. His tremendous affection for family and friends truly makes him susceptible to manipulation.
Where has he hidden it?
Where is the codex? You think you've gotten my mother?
Apart from that, there's another thing that's a total game changer and just might give Thrag the victory he's looking for. It's his dictator-like ruthlessness, his authoritarian efficiency, his lack of any ethical considerations. The man kills without even thinking twice and previously crushed all dissidents among the Viltrumites, ensuring the entire population remained completely loyal to him. A man as heartless as Thrag would blow up cities and burn villages just to get what he wants. Against Superman, Thrag doesn't have the liability of ethical concerns. He'll pounce without thinking twice and bask in the glory of his cruelty. Not to mention that Thrag literally commands the entire Viltrumite population, acting as their supreme leader. With a single word from Thrag's mouth, Superman would find entire armies of Viltrumites charging at him. Each soldier in that army would like nothing more than to die for his beloved leader of the Empire. All dissidents among them would have been executed by Thrag, and the Viltrumites who remain are hence fiercely loyal to Thrag.
Our most trusted officers were each given a planet to weaken by themselves. I was one of those lucky few.
If Superman wants to capture the leader, he'll have to fight off an army, and let me tell you, the Viltrumites are not ones to play around when it comes to warfare. The last thing that gives Thrag a fighting chance against Superman is this. While Superman in all likelihood has far more powers than Thrag, how many of those powers would actually work on a villain of Thrag's caliber is actually dubious. Powers like X-ray vision, the ability to talk over long distances, psychic abilities, or enhanced leaping, all great against weaker villains, but would a war-hardened veteran really be all that affected by such superpowers? I mean, Thrag isn't some small-town superhero. This is literally the strongest Viltrumite in all of recorded history. Against men, no doubt these powers would come in handy, but I doubt they would do much harm to Thrag. Even Superman's strongest powers like superhuman strength, superhuman speed, and the ability to fly are powers shared by Thrag himself, meaning that Superman's possession of these powers may not give him the advantage he's used to against lower-level villains. Thrag can fly just like Superman can, and both Thrag and Superman can punch through walls as if they're Kit Kat bars. Without this advantage, perhaps Thrag does stand a chance at holding his own against Superman. When all is said and all is done, does anyone want to guess who would win? Both have an advantage, but the title of this video was clear that this would not be a close fight, and there would be a clear winner. Among the two, who would it be? Before I reveal the answer, go ahead and type your guess out in the comment section and why you think he would win over the other. After much research and honestly days of thought, I've come to this final conclusion. Thrag would win Superman by a landslide, and it isn't even close. Conquest versus Thrag might seem like an epic battle between two of the most powerful Viltrumites ever, but their fight is not even close. And today, I'm going to break down every reason why this fight is over as soon as it starts, starting with their breakdowns. Let's start by giving Conquest his due. Conquest is a high-ranking Viltrumite warrior, likely the oldest survivor member of the Empire. He functions as the Empire's nuclear option, the warrior they deploy when utter devastation is required on target planets. When Conquest arrives, civilizations fall, like what we saw in the Season 3 finale. His appearance tells you everything about his history. A scarred face bisecting his blinded right eye, deep wrinkles marking centuries of warfare, balding gray hair, crooked teeth from battles where opponents actually managed to hurt him, and that cybernetic prosthetic arm, a bronze and silver apparatus with glowing amethyst accents, replacing his severed right arm. This isn't a warrior who's had an easy career. This is someone who survived wars that killed others, and as we all know, Viltrumites get stronger the more they are injured. Conquest's personality diverges sharply from Thrag's calculated leadership. Where Thrag commands through authority and strategic restraint, Conquest is a sadistic thrill-seeker who revels in violence, destruction, and the psychological torment of his opponents. He views the Empire's conquests as pretext for indulging his bloodlust. He mocks opponents mid-battle, provokes rage by targeting loved ones, and even jests about his own pain. The poor guy is just lonely. But personality doesn't win fights. Power does. So let's talk about what Conquest can actually do. Strength feats establish the baseline. Conquest's strength is immense. He overpowers Invincible repeatedly throughout their prolonged battle, using Mark as a weapon to slaughter civilians and devastate entire city blocks. He generates shockwaves with his attacks that literally level buildings. He survived a Ragnar mauling while already weakened by the Scourge virus. For those who don't know, Ragnars are creatures that tear through Viltrumites, and Conquest survived one attacking him when he was already compromised. That's not just durability, that's surviving something that should have ended him twice over. He nearly killed Adam Eve with a single punch. Eve, who has reality warping powers and enhanced durability, got hit once by Conquest and almost died. That's the kind of striking power we're talking about, and she very well could have died if Conquest finished her. But durability is where Conquest proves why he's truly one of the strongest. During his fight with Mark, he tanks punishment that would kill most Viltrumites. Broken bones don't stop him. Internal damage doesn't slow him down significantly. He keeps fighting through injuries that would incapacitate most strong beings, even Viltrumites. But here's the critical limitation. His regeneration was permanently impaired post-Scourge virus infection. The Scourge virus is a disease engineered to kill Viltrumites by attacking their healing factor. Conquest survived it, but he didn't come out unscathed. He cannot regrow lost limbs, which is why he has that cybernetic arm. Most Viltrumites can regenerate from almost anything given enough time. Conquest can't. That's a permanent vulnerability that affects every fight going forward. His cybernetic arm, while durable, has been shattered in combat. It's tough enough to punch through buildings and Viltrumite level opponents, but it's still a prosthetic. It's a weakness that didn't exist before the Scourge virus. But his strengths don't stop there. He is one of the fastest Viltrumites. He has exceptional speed that outpaces Earth's fastest beings. Conquest flies at faster than light speeds, crosses interstellar distances, and in combat moves faster than Mark struggles to track him. When Conquest attacks, he's coming from angles Mark can't predict at speeds that give no time to react. Combat experience spans centuries. Conquest has centuries of brutal efficiency and mentorship under his belt. He mentored Omni-Man, teaching Nolan techniques and philosophies about Viltrumite warfare. Think about that. Omni-Man, who decimated the Guardians of the Globe and conquered planets, learned from Conquest. The student became one of the Empire's most effective agents, and the teacher is even more dangerous. Conquest employs psychological warfare to unnerve his opponents. He doesn't just fight, he breaks people mentally before finishing them physically. He targets loved ones, mocks pain, makes opponents emotional so they fight stupid. Against Mark, he explicitly went after civilians Mark cared about, forcing Mark to watch people die because he wasn't strong enough to stop it. His combat mastery and intimidation are legendary within the Empire. Other Viltrumites respect and fear him. That doesn't happen unless you've proven yourself against the best. So, we've established that Conquest is terrifying. Now, let's talk about Thrag. Thrag stands as the unparalleled pinnacle of Viltrumite might, serving as the Grand Regent of the Viltrumite Empire and widely recognized as the strongest Viltrumite in history. Born during the turbulent Argal era, Thrag was forged in the fires of relentless combat training from the moment of his birth. Not from childhood, from birth. The Viltrumite Empire took one look at his genetics and said, "This one is special," and put him through a regimen that honed his already superior genetics into a weapon of unmatched potency. He participated in the civil war known as the Great Purge, which called the weak from Viltrumite ranks. This wasn't a war against external enemies. This was Viltrumites fighting Viltrumites to determine who deserved to survive. Thrag not only survived, he excelled. His performance in the Great Purge paved his path to leadership following the mysterious demise of Emperor Argal. For millennia, Thrag has steered the Empire's expansionist crusade across the galaxy, commanding absolute loyalty through a blend of raw power, strategic acumen, and an unyielding adherence to Viltrumite ideals of dominance. When Thrag gives orders, they are obeyed. Not out of respect alone, but out of knowledge that disobedience means death. Now, let's break down what makes Thrag operate on a completely different level than Conquest. Strength that defies comprehension. Thrag's strength is unfathomable. He ripped through Omni-Man's abdomen in a display of raw power that shocked everyone who witnessed it. Think about what that means. Omni-Man, who decimated the Guardians of the Globe, who conquered planets, who tanks nuclear equivalent attacks, got torn apart by Thrag's bare hands. Thrag exchanges blows with Invincible and Omni-Man without faltering. Not one or the other, both. At the same time, and he's winning. He maintained unchallenged rule over the Empire for eons, intimidating even the fearsome Conquest into submission. When Conquest sees Thrag, he knows exactly where he stands in the hierarchy. His leadership feats include expanding Viltrumite armies galaxy-wide and fostering continual improvement through adversity. He doesn't just fight, he builds empires. He doesn't just conquer, he establishes systems that last millennia. Durability that borders on invulnerability. Thrag's durability is described as nigh invulnerable. He's unaffected by blows from Invincible and Omni-Man. These are attacks that destroy cities, shatter mountains, and create shockwaves that devastate everything around them. Thrag tanks them without significant damage. Speed that exceeds every other Viltrumite. Superhuman, faster than light travel. Thrag moves at speeds that make interstellar distances trivial. In combat, his speed advantage over even elite Viltrumites is noticeable. He's not just fast, he's faster than beings who are already moving at incomprehensible velocities. Healing without limitations. Rapid regeneration without noted limits. Unlike Conquest, whose healing was permanently compromised by the Scourge virus, Thrag's regeneration functions at peak Viltrumite capacity. Lose an arm, he'd grow it back. Suffer internal damage, healed within hours or days depending on severity. This is a massive advantage that people underestimate. Combat experience measured in millennia. Millennia as a master combatant and leader. Thrag hasn't just fought for thousands of years. He's fought and won against the best the galaxy could offer. He's refined tactics through experience that span civilizations rising and falling. He knows every Viltrumite fighting style because he's been there since they were developed. His accomplishments underscore his dominance in ways that transcend simple power scaling. He ripped through Omni-Man's abdomen, a feat that showed every Viltrumite exactly what Thrag is capable of. He exchanged blows with Invincible and Omni-Man simultaneously without issue. 2 planetary level threats attacking him at once, and he's handling them both. He maintained unchallenged rule over the Empire for eons. Nobody challenged Thrag because nobody was stupid enough to think they could win. Even in a society built on strength and conquest, Thrag stood alone at the top. He intimidated Conquest into submission. Let that sink in. Conquest, the sadistic warrior who revels in violence and mocks his own pain, submits to Thrag. Not because he wants to, but because he has no choice. The power gap is that obvious. Weaknesses are largely shared with minor distinctions. High frequency sounds disrupt Viltrumite equilibrium, affecting both. Extreme force from equals can pose threats, though Thrag has no equals among Viltrumite. The Scourge virus affects both, though Conquest's regeneration was permanently impaired, while Thrag's superior immune system might fare better according to some analysis. Conquest's cybernetic arm, while durable, has been shattered in combat. That's an additional vulnerability Thrag doesn't have. Thrag's equipment is his body, and his body doesn't break. Here's what it comes down to. Both Conquest and Thrag share foundational Viltrumite physiology. Decelerated aging for prolonged peak condition. Dominant genes ensuring hybrid offspring inherent Viltrumite traits. Fight via inner ear balance systems. Nigh invulnerability to withstand extreme environments and assaults. Superhuman speed for faster than light travel. Reactive adaptation for growth through challenges. Regenerative healing to mend severe injuries. Enhanced senses for distant perception. Superhuman lung capacity and self-sustenance for space survival. Inexhaustible stamina. But Thrag's manifestations of these powers are amplified by his elite breeding and ceaseless training. Every advantage Conquest has, Thrag has it better. Every technique Conquest knows, Thrag knows it and has counters. Every battle Conquest survived, Thrag survived worse. So we've established the power gap, but power isn't everything. So how does the actual fight play out? Let's walk through how Conquest versus Thrag actually unfolds. Conquest attacks aggressively. In a realistic fight scenario, the encounter would unfold with Conquest launching an aggressive, taunt-filled assault. He's not subtle or strategic in the patient sense. He's a brawler who uses speed and strength to probe for weaknesses while psychologically breaking opponents. Conquest would leverage his speed and strength to probe for openings. He'd come in fast, throwing powerful strikes meant to test Thrag's defense. He'd mock Thrag mid-battle, trying to provoke rage or force mistakes. This is Conquest's bread and butter, the tactics that have worked for centuries against lesser opponents. But Thrag isn't a lesser opponent. Thrag's superior reflexes and power would allow him to evade or absorb lots of strikes. When Conquest attacks, Thrag either isn't there or tanks it without flinching. Conquest's probing attacks aren't finding weaknesses because there aren't weaknesses to find. Thrag would counter with devastating precision, perhaps ripping into Conquest as he did Omni-Man, tearing through flesh and bone, or pummeling him into submission with blows that shatter Conquest's cybernetic enhancements. The cybernetic arm, Thrag targets it immediately. It's been shattered before, and Thrag knows that. One good hit, and Conquest loses his right arm functionality again. Conquest's durability would prolong the battle for a while. He'd likely drag it out and deal some real damage if he's going as aggressively as possible, but Thrag's stamina and adaptation would ensure a victory. As the fight continues, the gap becomes more obvious. Thrag isn't getting tired and is systematically breaking Conquest down. The fight likely ends with Conquest's defeat without Thrag sustaining significant injury. Definitely some damage, but nothing that threatens his life. Prolonged engagement. So what if Conquest somehow survives the initial onslaught? What if through skill, luck, or desperation he drags this fight out and Thrag is actually damaged and starting to get tired? Well, this would make things worse. Viltrumite biology means both fighters grow stronger through combat and near-death experiences. But Thrag starts at a higher baseline and his rate of growth is faster due to superior genetics. The longer the fight goes, the wider the gap becomes. Conquest's impaired regeneration from the Scourge virus becomes critical here. Damage accumulates. The cybernetic arm gets shattered and doesn't heal. His flesh heals slower than Thrag's. Every exchange where both fighters take damage benefits Thrag more because Thrag recovers faster. So he'd be cooked here, but could he beat him in a psychological warfare? Conquest excels at targeting emotional vulnerabilities. He goes after loved ones, mocks pain, forces opponents to watch things they care about get destroyed. This worked brilliantly against Mark, a young hero who cares deeply about civilians and has clear emotional weak points. Thrag has ruled through fear and authority for millennia. He's not emotionally vulnerable in ways Conquest can exploit. Thrag doesn't have loved ones Conquest can threaten. He doesn't have attachments that can be used against him. He's the living embodiment of Viltrumite ideals, and those ideals are strength and dominance, not mercy or compassion. If Conquest tries to mock Thrag, he's wasting breath. If Conquest tries to make Thrag angry, he's making things worse for himself because angry Thrag is still completely in control, just more motivated to end the fight quickly. Thrag's psychological edge comes from his reputation and overwhelming presence. Every Viltrumite knows what Thrag is. When you fight him, you're fighting with the knowledge that nobody has ever beaten him. That's psychological warfare on a different level. Invincible. Okay, but Conquest still has a chance through environmental factors. What if circumstances favor Conquest? What if they fight near high-frequency sound generators or in an environment where Conquest has advantages? Shared vulnerabilities cancel out. High-frequency sounds affect both equally. Environmental hazards that would hurt one hurt both. And in neural terrain, raw power decides outcomes. Thrag's superior power projection means he controls the engagement distance and battlefield conditions. If they're in space, Thrag uses his superior speed to dictate positioning. If they're on a planet, Thrag uses his superior strength to throw Conquest through mountains. Conquest's equipment provides minor edges, but the cybernetic arm has proven fragile against top-tier opponents. That arm shatters, and Conquest is left with just his body, minus one arm, against someone whose body is better in every measurable way. So, based on everything we've covered, who actually wins? Thrag wins 10 out of 10 times, and it's not even close for poor Conquest. Can Homelander beat the Immortal? These two characters from their respective hero-superhero shows are often compared in versus debates. And while both seem powerful in their own universes, one of them operates on a completely different level. The Immortal from Invincible has feats that scale to godlike threats, while Homelander's dominance is over much weaker opponents. It begs the question, would Homelander stand a chance against the Immortal in a real fight? That's exactly what we are going to figure out. Starting out with who these characters actually are, because their backgrounds tell us a lot about what they can do. The Immortal is an ancient superhero in Invincible who has lived for millennia. He's led teams like the Guardians of the Globe, with a backstory including historical figures like Abraham Lincoln. The show reveals he's been a Celtic fighter, a medieval knight, and even Abraham Lincoln before his assassination. As the leader of the Guardians of the Globe, his backstory emphasizes enduring resilience and a commitment to protection shaped by repeated deaths and revivals that fuel his unyielding sense of duty. His experience spans centuries of combat. He's fought in countless wars, coordinated teams against planetary invasions, and faced threats that would level cities. That kind of experience creates tactical depth you can't teach. The Immortal knows how to fight smarter, not just harder. Every time he's been killed, he's been resurrected, coming back with the same memories, the same skills, and the same determination.
Why? Where is Omni-Man? Where is he?
Homelander from The Boys is completely different. He's a lab-created soup designed as a patriotic symbol by Vought International, raised in isolation with psychological issues stemming from experiments. His origins highlight isolation, abuse, and psychological instability, turning him into a narcissist tyrant who craves adoration while hiding vulnerabilities. Where the Immortal has millennia of real combat experience against legitimate threats, Homelander has dominated weaker opponents his entire life. He's never faced a true peer. His lack of true peers fosters arrogance, leading to losses when challenged. He fled from Soldier Boy when things got tough. That's not the mindset of someone ready for a real war. Let's break down what each of them can actually do, because the gap becomes obvious pretty quickly. The Immortal possesses immortality, super strength, flight, and regeneration, allowing him to survive decapitation and fight on par with Viltrumites briefly. His abilities include superhuman strength that injures Omni-Man and draws blood in Season 1, flight for maneuvering in aerial combat against Viltrumites, immortality surviving decapitation multiple times across seasons, regeneration healing from impalement and disembowelment in Season 2, nigh invulnerability enduring blows that level cities, super speed reacting to Omni-Man's attacks, and stamina fighting extended battles without fatigue. In Invincible Season 1, the Immortal trades blows with Omni-Man, gouging his eyes and surviving stomach punches before decapitation. That's fighting someone who can destroy entire planets. He only dies because Omni-Man gets the drop on him in a coordinated massacre of the Guardians. Season 2 shows him leading Guardians against threats like the Sequids, enduring impalements, and briefly holding off Omni-Man again. By Season 3, he battles evil Invincible variants, sustaining heavy injuries but persisting through PTSD. Homelander has super strength overpowering Soldier Boy and ripping apart Webweaver in Season 4, flight at supersonic speeds to intercept planes, heat vision bisecting terrorists and melting objects, X-ray vision seeing through walls except zinc, super hearing detecting lies from afar, durability surviving explosions and Temp V enhanced assaults, and stamina never tiring in fights. But here's the problem. Homelander's feats are against non-equals. In The Boys, he destroys a jet mid-flight in Season 1, overpowers multiple soups like Maeve and Butcher in Season 3, and massacres lab scientists in Season 4. But these are against people who aren't in his league. He struggles when matched, as with Soldier Boy's radiation blasts or Maeve's ear stab causing lasting pain. Homelander can hurt normal people easily. The Immortal fights beings that can destroy planets and survives. That's not the same ballpark. This is where the conversation should really end. Omni-Man's feats in Invincible are absolutely absolutely absurd compared to anything in the boys' universe. He flies through planets, conquers civilizations single-handedly, survives in the vacuum of space indefinitely, and moves at speeds that make him blurry even to other super-powered beings. The Immortal can fight Omni-Man, not win, but fight and survive long enough to be a threat. He gouges out Omni-Man's eyes. He survives stomach punches that create shockwaves destroying buildings. That automatically puts the Immortal above Homelander. What's Homelander's best feat? Lasering a plane? Overpowering Maeve? Fighting Soldier Boy? None of these opponents are even close to Viltrumite level. Omni-Man vastly surpasses Homelander in every category, and the Immortal can hurt Omni-Man. The scaling is clear. Let's talk about what each character can actually survive. The Immortal survives decapitation in Season 1, gets resurrected and comes back at full strength. He endures impalement and disembowelment in Season 2, healing from injuries that puncture completely through his body. He tanks blows from Omni-Man that create shockwaves, shattering buildings. His regeneration isn't instant, but it's thorough. Given time, he recovers from almost anything short of complete disintegration. By Season 3, he's fighting evil Invincible variants, alternate universe versions of Mark hitting with planetary level force, and the Immortal sustains heavy injuries but persists. His durability isn't just physical, it's mental. He doesn't break. Homelander survives explosions in Season 1, but these are conventional explosives, not planet-busting attacks. He endures TemV enhanced assaults from Butcher and Soldier Boy in Season 3, and he's clearly hurt by them. Most damning is Maeve's attack. She stabs a metal straw through his ear, and it causes lasting pain. That's not the durability of someone who can hang with Viltrumites. The Boys also shows Homelander bruised by Maeve's punches. When she fights him seriously, her hits leave marks. If her attacks can hurt him, what happens when someone who trades blows with Omni-Man hits him? The Immortal's millennia of combat experience give him strategic depth Homelander can't match. He's fought in every kind of battle imaginable. Sword fights as a Celtic warrior, medieval warfare as a knight, modern combat as a superhero, space battles against alien threats. As the leader of the Guardians of the Globe, he coordinates heroes against planetary invasions. That requires understanding tactics, predicting enemy movements, and making split-second decisions. In Season 2, where he leads the Guardians against the Sequids, these coordinated alien parasites work with hive mind intelligence. The Immortal adapts his tactics mid-battle as the threat evolves. That's generalship. When he fights Omni-Man the second time, he's learned from the first encounter and changes his approach. Homelander has never needed tactics. His entire fighting style is overpower the opponent with superior strength and lasers. That works when you're fighting people weaker than you, but it's not a strategy. When he faces Soldier Boy and Butcher in Season 3, he doesn't have a plan beyond kill them faster. When that doesn't work, he panics. Most telling is when Soldier Boy's radiation blasts hurt him. He retreats. Not a tactical retreat to regroup. He runs because he's not used to feeling pain. Compare that to the Immortal, who has literally died multiple times and keeps coming back. In a fight between them, Homelander would come in arrogant, expecting to dominate. The Immortal would come in prepared, having faced opponents far more dangerous. Let's walk through exactly why this matchup is so one-sided. Strength comparisons favor the Immortal by a huge margin. His clashes with Omni-Man create shockwaves that destroy city blocks. His punches draw blood from a Viltrumite. Homelander's strength feats are overpowering Soldier Boy and ripping apart Webweaver, who's basically a Spider-Man knockoff with no durability feats. When the Immortal punches something, it matters. Homelander's strikes look impressive because his opponents are weak. Speed creates another massive advantage. Yes, Homelander has supersonic flight and can intercept planes, but the Immortal reacts to and dodges Viltrumite strikes. Omni-Man moves at speeds that blur even to superpowered beings, and the Immortal can track those movements. Viltrumites fly through space at FTL speeds. The Immortal has aerial combat experience against these beings. Durability isn't even a contest. The Immortal regenerates from dismemberment, survives decapitation, and recovers from Omni-Man's gore-filled beatdowns. Homelander shows vulnerability to internal damage from Maeve's straw and Soldier Boy's radiation. The Immortal has been torn apart and put back together. Homelander gets his ear stabbed and it's a lasting injury. Experience and mindset create a psychological advantage. The Immortal has faced death multiple times and come back stronger. Homelander has dominated weaker opponents his entire life. When his superiority is questioned, he makes mistakes. The moment Homelander realizes he can't hurt the Immortal, that his heat vision isn't working, that his punches aren't landing with expected effect, his entire mental game collapses. Let's walk through how this fight would actually play out. In a speed battle, the Immortal's reflexes against Viltrumite blitzes would counter Homelander's supersonic flight, potentially ending with a decapitation Homelander couldn't survive. Homelander comes in fast, thinking speed gives him an advantage, but the Immortal has dodged Omni-Man. Homelander's supersonic flight is slow motion by comparison. The Immortal sidesteps, counters with a strike that actually hurts, and suddenly Homelander is on the defensive. A straight brawl sees the Immortal's regeneration outlasting Homelander's heat vision, which failed against durable foes like Maeve. Heat vision requires opponents without high-end durability. Maeve survives it in Season 3, and she's nowhere near as durable as the Immortal. Meanwhile, the Immortal strikes draw blood from Omni-Man. Every punch lands with force, destroying city blocks. box, and because the Immortal can regenerate and Homelander can't, it becomes a war of attrition. The Immortal wins. Tactically, the Immortal's leadership experience exploits Homelander's rage issues. Homelander loses control when his ego is damaged. The Immortal would bait him into mistakes by challenging his superiority. Once Homelander is fighting emotionally instead of tactically, it's over. Environmental factors favor the Immortal's vacuum survival over Homelander's implied limits. If this fight happens in space, the Immortal has fought Viltrumites in space. Homelander's never been shown surviving in a vacuum for extended periods. Psychologically, the Immortal's resilience breaks Homelander's ego-driven facade. The moment Homelander realizes he can't intimidate someone who's died and come back, who doesn't fear him, who's genuinely more powerful, his worldview shatters. We saw what happened with Soldier Boy. Homelander panicked and fled. The Immortal is exponentially more dangerous, and that's why this isn't close. The Immortal from Invincible significantly outclasses Homelander from the boys in a hypothetical matchup. His feats scaling to threats like Omni-Man make the fight decisively one-sided in his favor. The Immortal's ability to injure Omni-Man, who vastly surpasses Homelander, gives him overwhelming advantages in durability and experience. Homelander's attacks would be ineffective against someone who regenerates from Viltrumite beatdowns. His heat vision fails against durable foes. His strength can't match someone who trades blows with planet conquerors. His speed looks impressive until you realize the Immortal dodges attacks from beings moving at relativistic speeds. The Immortal's superior durability and strength render Homelander's attacks ineffective, though Homelander's speed and heat vision could pose initial challenges without altering the overall outcome. He might land a few hits at the start, but the second the Immortal gets serious, the fight is over. The verdict is clear. The Immortal wins. Not just wins, dominates. This isn't a competitive fight. This is a veteran warrior with millennia of experience putting down a bully who's never faced a real challenge. Everyone thinks Superman versus Omni-Man would be an insane battle, but it's not even close. And I'll be breaking down every brutal reason why, starting with where they come from, because origins shape everything. Superman was born as Kal-El on the distant planet Krypton to scientists Jor-El and Lara. As Krypton faced imminent destruction due to a natural planetary catastrophe, its core becoming unstable, Jor-El built a small spacecraft to save his infant son. Moments before Krypton exploded, Kal-El was placed in the craft and sent to He crash-landed near Smallville, Kansas, where he was found and adopted by a kind farming couple, Jonathan and Martha Kent. They named him Clark Kent and raised him as their own. As Clark grew up, he developed extraordinary powers due to Earth's yellow sun and weaker gravity, including super strength, flight, heat vision, X-ray vision, super speed, and invulnerability. His parents instilled in him strong moral values, teaching him to use his powers for good. Upon reaching adulthood, Clark moved to Metropolis, where he became a journalist for the Daily Planet and adopted the superhero identity Superman, a symbol of hope and justice. He's not just a product of alien biology, he's the ultimate embodiment of nurture over nature. His connection to humanity is what defines him. He chooses to protect, to guide, to lead by example. Omni-Man is a Viltrumite, a member of a powerful alien race from the planet Viltrum. The Viltrumites are a superhuman species characterized by their immense strength, speed, flight, near invulnerability, and long lifespans. Their society is built around a brutal ideology of conquest and survival of the fittest. Initially, the Viltrumite Empire sought to expand its reach by violently conquering other planets. To streamline this, they later began sending lone Viltrumites to infiltrate and weaken worlds from within in preparation for eventual conquest. Nolan was sent to Earth under the false pretense of being a benevolent protector.
We don't know who this is, or if they're friendly or not.
You don't look like you're from around here.
My government sent me here to help protect.
On Earth, he assumed the identity Omni-Man and became a superhero, even marrying a human woman, Debbie Grayson, and fathering a son, Mark Grayson, who would later become Invincible. While he genuinely developed some attachment to Earth and his family, his true mission was always to prepare Earth for Viltrumite rule. This hidden agenda leads to a dramatic and violent revelation, particularly when Mark comes of age and develops power of his own. That ideological contrast is the core difference. Superman is the protector of Earth in every aspect. He is meant to embody ideals of hope, peace, and justice, while Omni-Man represents conquest and the expansion of an empire, hiding his dark secret until the right moment. But this isn't their only big difference. Superman is so far beyond strength that it's sometimes hard to measure without context. For instance, a more abstract feat would be when he enters the metaphysical realm to confront destiny itself. The Book of Destiny is said to contain every possible outcome in the universe. Its pages are described as infinite, and each page has infinite weight. Superman Superman, through sheer will and strength, manages to turn a page. A more definite and recognizable feat of strength would be when he physically moved Earth out of the path of a rogue planet, something that would require literally quintillions of tons of force. These aren't just flukes of freakish strength either. No Superman is able to keep those feats going consistently, like when he endured the intense gravitational stress test near the sun, lifting Earth mass simulators for 5 days straight. Most impressively is the time he contained a black hole with his bare hands, showing that his strength isn't just limited to lifting heavy things. Omni-Man's feats of strength are far more quantifiable, contained within a level of realism. He took on the Guardians of the Globe, brutally killing what equates to a discount Justice League all on his own. While fighting with Mark, he smashes him through a skyscraper, a mountain, and across a multi-mile distance. The destruction caused by their fight levels entire blocks of a city, killing thousands within seconds. Also, he has killed other Viltrumites, all superhuman level threats, battling several on Throxa and 2 more on the prison ship. His greatest singular feat of strength comes from the comics. During the Viltrumite War arc, Omni-Man, Mark, and Thetis follow a bolt fired from Space Racer through the planet Viltrum, destroying it in spectacular fashion. While not a feat that is solely his own, it is incredibly impressive that he is able to destroy a planet completely, but their strength would be nothing without their speed. In battle, Superman is able to analyze situations, make decisions, and respond in the span of microseconds or less. Starting low on the list of feats, he once caught a bullet after it had been fired, saving the person it was flying towards. Ramping up quickly, he reacted to dozens of high-speed satellite weapons falling towards Earth, disabling them almost simultaneously across continents, covering continents in seconds. He can move through space at frankly ridiculous speeds too, going from Earth to the Vega system 25 light years away in what happens to be minutes, reacting to a distress signal. But in other instances, he's crossed the whole universe in seconds to respond to a cosmic threat. He has also raced the Flash himself on more than a few occasions, sometimes as a friendly competition, sometimes under duress. Sometimes they tie, other times Flash wins by a narrow margin. Keeping up with the fastest man alive is no laughing matter. Omni-Man's feats are once again on a much smaller scale, still very impressive though. He is able to catch Red Rush's fist, Red Rush being a speedster capable of punching hundreds of times per second. Despite this, Omni-Man catches him, immobilizes him, and crushes his skull. While fighting Mark, he notices fighter jets entering the area. He disappears from view and reaches them in an instant, destroying one mid-air, suggesting hypersonic movement. His greatest feat of speed would be when he invades the Flaxen dimension and slaughters their entire army, destroying cities and killing their leadership within seconds. He is seen as nothing but a blur followed by wakes of destruction and death. Omni-Man can travel at hypersonic speeds. He's fast enough to fly through continents in minutes and kill thousands in a blink. But he's not faster than light, not even close. In terms of reaction speed, Superman is in a league of his own. If you think their speeds are impressive, just wait until you hear how durable they are. Superman's durability is unquestionable, but let's try to start on the lesser end. Superman is able to trade blows with Doomsday, a genetically engineered killing machine. Each punch creates shockwaves across cities, and the entire eastern seaboard shakes during their fight. He took a full blast from Darkseid's Omega beams, which typically erase people from existence or trap them in alternate timelines. Superman resists it depending on the version, even outfighting it with willpower. If that's not enough, he dived into the core of the sun on a rescue mission, absorbing a solar overload that temporarily mutates him. The sun's core burns at 15 million degrees Celsius, and its gravitational pressure would crush any known material, but Superman takes it. Omni-Man's feats are once again on a much more definable scale. He survived a train collision without slowing down, dragging Mark through a speeding passenger train, letting it slam into him repeatedly as bodies explode around them. Hundreds of tons of steel moving at high speed shred on impact, and Omni-Man doesn't even flinch, not even a scratch on him. He casually resists bullets, missiles, and even a giant satellite skybeam. But most impressively is when he survived flying through planet Viltrum's core, withstanding immense heat and gravitational pressure. Impressive? Definitely. But Superman's feats are on a different scale, a cosmic scale. Omni-Man is terrifying by human standards, Superman is terrifying by divine ones. In power scaling, Superman exists in a tier above. His greatest enemies are Time Eaters, Dimension Shatterers, and Gods of Chaos. Omni-Man fights soldiers, rebels, and generals. The gap between them grows by the second. Okay, I know what you're thinking right now, but Omni-Man still has potential. One thing is more important than you realize, and it's the mind. Superman is often underestimated here, but he's not just a powerhouse. He's a trained journalist, an investigator, a scientist, and in many stories, a tactical genius. He's battled for centuries in alternate timelines, trained with Batman, Wonder Woman, and Jor-El. He solves interdimensional puzzles, speaks every known language on Earth and beyond, and adapts to new threats with lightning speed. He's fought alongside the Justice League, the Legion of Superheroes, and even the New Gods. He understands how to lead, how to coordinate, and how to manipulate battlefields. Omni-Man is a warrior, trained in combat for centuries. He knows how to fight. He's experienced in Viltrumite battle tactics, but strategy isn't his strength. Overwhelming forces. His problem solving often boils down to punching harder or intimidating enemies. So who wins in a chess match? Superman. Every time. A common argument. Omni-Man doesn't hold back, Superman does. True, but let's be clear. Superman doesn't hold back because he has to. He holds back because he chooses to. He sees value in every life. He doesn't want to destroy when he can protect, but when he needs to unleash, just ask Doomsday, ask the Anti-Monitor, ask Zod. We've seen Superman cut loose, and it is terrifying. He could burn Omni-Man out of existence before Nolan blinks. And when Superman chooses to fight with his full potential, the battlefield itself becomes irrelevant. Mountains shatter, oceans evaporate, time slows. Omni-Man's willingness to kill doesn't give him an edge. It just reveals his lack of control. Superman doesn't need to kill to win. He wins because he fights with purpose, precision, and a higher moral code. He wins because his values elevate him beyond brute force. Let's talk about storytelling. Superman represents hope. He is restrained, moral, and ultimate power guided by compassion. Omni-Man represents authoritarianism. He's what happens when power has no limits and no empathy. Their stories aren't just about strength, they're metaphors. Superman chooses to be human despite being a god. Omni-Man pretends to be human while seeing us as ants. Superman uplifts humanity, Omni-Man enslaves it. In any narrative, Superman wins because he is the ideal. Omni-Man loses because he is the cautionary tale. Their arcs aren't aligned. Their values aren't compatible. This isn't a rivalry, it's a moral mismatch. Superman is the answer to the question, what if God were good? Omni-Man is the warning, what if he wasn't? Let's say they do fight. Full power, neutral setting, no help, no kryptonite, just fists and fury. Omni-Man attacks first, Superman takes the hit, maybe even stumbles. Then he counters with a punch that folds mountains. Omni-Man is fast, but Superman is faster. Nolan goes for a grapple. Superman breaks it, flies into orbit, and slams Omni-Man through an asteroid field. Even if Nolan draws blood, it doesn't matter. Superman heals in seconds. And if Superman gets serious, it's over in less than a minute. Maybe Nolan tries to retreat. Superman follows. Maybe he tries to reason. Superman doesn't flinch. When he knows the world is at risk, when innocent lives hang in the balance, Kal-El acts with defined swiftness. No cosmic tools, no Batman with a plan, just Superman. So why the debate? Why do people even ask this question? Because Invincible was brilliant. Omni-Man is terrifying, complex, and incredibly written. He shocked us. He broke the mold. And with J.K. Simmons voicing him, perfection. But hype isn't strength. A great character doesn't equal a great matchup. Superman has 80 years of scaling. He's fought beings who can rewrite reality. Omni-Man, he's a king in a sandbox. Superman's battles span the multiverse. We love Omni-Man, but loving a character doesn't mean pretending he can be Superman. It means appreciating his story for what it is. A powerful warning, not a power fantasy. All this leaves us with a question. Who would walk away from a fight? Well, I think no matter what version, what universe, or what fight, Superman would walk away every time. Everyone thinks Conquest versus Thanos would be an insane battle, but it's not even close. And I'm gonna break down every brutal reason why, starting with where they come from, because origins shape everything. Conquest is a Viltrumite, an alien race evolved around extreme selective pressure. He is the result of an empire built on domination and war, an oppressive world that demands conquest or extinction. From the moment he could walk, Conquest was taught that strength defined worth. Weakness was stamped out early. He matured into the perfect soldier, ruthless, efficient, utterly without remorse. Viltrumites are functionally gods, near invulnerable, faster than light, with strength that could shatter planets, and they can fly through stars without breaking a sweat. But even among such a species, Conquest is different. He's not just another soldier in the Viltrumite Empire. He's the exterminator, the Ancient One. He was the mentor of his former protege, the Great Nolan, otherwise known as Omni-Man. A living reminder that even among monsters, some are too cruel to keep around. Scarred, one-eyed, and far older than Omni-Man, Conquest is the battle-hardened living memorial of the Empire's darkest days. Unlike many of his peers who act under the pretense of duty or ideological loyalty, he does not hide behind any cause. While he is loyal to the Empire in function, he views the Viltrumite mission as nothing more than an excuse to do what he truly loves, which is fighting, killing, and causing pain. Victory is not his goal, and what he seeks is the sheer thrill of resistance, the satisfaction of breaking strong opponents, and the pleasure of watching others suffer. During a centuries-long campaign to bring the galaxy under Viltrum control, Conquest carved out a name synonymous with devastation. He razed cities with a flick of a wrist, disintegrated armies with casual ease, and pursued fleeing populations across star systems. He derived genuine satisfaction from acts of violence, the fear in enemy eyes, the ragged breath of soldiers crushed beneath his boots. Weakness was stamped out early. He matured into the perfect soldier, ruthless, efficient, utterly without remorse. He was shown to have been one of the very few who actively participated in and survived the Great Purge. Viltrum isolated him not because he failed, but because he enjoyed it too much. He doesn't fight for the Empire. He doesn't fight for glory. He fights because it's all he's ever known. Every inch of his body is marked by centuries of war, of planets razed and civilizations erased. He's strength without mercy, fury without limits, the equivalent of a warhead with a pulse. When the Empire is dying and they need a problem solved permanently, they send Conquest. He serves as the Viltrumites' fundamental nuclear option, deployed only when maximum force and absolute ruthlessness are considered necessary. And when he shows up on Earth, he doesn't negotiate. He doesn't pause. He moves with a single-minded purpose: to break the resistance so thoroughly it never rises again. He flies straight into battle, ripping through heroes like tissue. Invincible, beaten within inches of death.
Killing him?
Adam Eve, brutally torn apart. He doesn't even bat an eyelid to almost ripping Oliver, a literal child, into two. He is a ruthless and battle-tested veteran with unmatched strength and skill. Every fight is a playground to him, and he treats his opponents as nothing more than toys to be broken or manipulated. Conquest thrives on chaos, and he enjoys mocking his enemies in the middle of battle. He is both talkative and cruel, and often peppers his taunts with sarcasm and twisted encouragement. He torments others emotionally in order to make fights more exciting, urging them to fight harder by threatening those they care about. During his brutal confrontation with Invincible, Conquest insulted him constantly, pushing him to become more violent. He even pretended to thank him after seemingly killing Adam Eve, as it meant he could finally fight without holding back.
I want to thank you, Mark. Really.
He laughed at Invincible's grief, even while being beaten to death, grinning through shattered teeth and throwing headbutts until his skull was destroyed. His dry, sarcastic sense of humor hardly ever fades, and he is known to joke about even his own suffering. He once simply remarked that he takes the good with the bad after being torn apart in battle. Conquest is cruel beyond measure, slaughtering the innocent not out of duty, but simply to provoke more fury in his opponents. He acknowledges courage when he sees it, and he even praises Invincible's bravery, along with the efforts of Oliver and Adam Eve. He can grow angered when his opponents match and manage to outwit him in combat. In the end, though, he recognizes when he is beaten and accepts it without protest. Beneath his violent exterior lies something colder and more bitter. In a rare moment of sincerity, Conquest admits that he has grown tired of being a weapon used over and over again. His life of inflicting death and destruction has left him emotionally distant, even among his own people. He says that others fear him and that he does not have a true name, only a function and a stark title. Though he covers this with sarcasm and laughter, his words suggest isolation, exhaustion, and deep resentment over what he has become. But it is masked to perfection, and all that is left is the exterminator in him. He doesn't want to dominate, he wants to disable, to break, to destroy. He's not evil because of ideology, he's evil because he likes it. Conquest is the embodiment of violence, destruction, and sadistic pleasure. Now, let's turn to Thanos. Thanos was born on Titan, one of Saturn's moons, as a frost giant-like anomaly among the Eternals of Titan. As a child, he was grotesquely deformed, his skin purplish and his body massive and hulking, earning the fear of his peers even before his intellect revealed itself. But the alien appearance held a mind that would become one of the most coldly rational and obsessive in the universe. Feared for his strength, but hated for his mind. Unlike Conquest, Thanos wasn't forged in war. He was born into intellect. Cold, calculating, obsessive. He was fascinated with entropy and decay. From his earliest days, he poured himself over the ancient Titan archives, devouring knowledge about cosmic balance, thermodynamics, the cycle of life and death, and the power of death. He studied the fundamental laws of the universe and then decided they were wrong. His grand solution? He could fix them. Thanos' objective was to bring stability to the universe by wiping out half of all life at every level, no matter what it took him and what the cost was. As he believed, its massive population would inevitably use up the universe's entire supply of resources and perish. To complete this goal, Thanos set about hunting down all the Infinity Stones, as the combined force of the stones would grant sufficient power.
And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
Genocide.
At random, dispassionate fair to rich and poor alike. They called me a madman. And what I predicted came to pass. With all 6 stones, I could simply snap my fingers. They would all cease to exist. I call that mercy.
Thanos, after a series of failed alliances, made the decision to seek and procure the stones himself. He began by forcing Atri to create the Infinity Gauntlet for him so that he would have been able to wield the power of the stones safely. Thanos then engaged in a ferocious crusade in order to obtain the Infinity Stones. During his mission, both Thanos and his Black Order invaded multiple planets and slaughtered thousands to gain the stones, including Loki and the Asgardians. This quest even forced Thanos to sacrifice his beloved Gamora in order to take the Soul Stone. Thanos soon found himself challenged by the alliances of the entire universe's greatest heroes, which included the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. However, despite facing off against the powerfully combined opposition and the wrath of Thor, Thanos still ultimately triumphed as he completed the Infinity Gauntlet, using it to finally complete his goal through the snap, which resulted in half of all life in the universe being wiped out with a mere snap of his fingers. But Thanos is not just a genius, and don't be fooled by his purple color. He is a nihilist who worships death as a lover, a philosopher who sees extinction as mercy. He doesn't just want to kill, he wants to make killing mean something. When Thanos wipes out half of existence, he doesn't grin, he carries it with solemnity, viewing the act not as celebration, but as sacrifice. He meditates on the weight of his decision, whispers, perfectly balanced, as all things should be, and watches sunsets, convinced that he has brought cosmic peace. His victory seemed absolute. After the snap and Infinity War, he retires to a lonely planet, perched among the stars, watching life's remnants flicker, convinced his mission is complete. That is, until heroes rally in Endgame, steal the stones across time, and use them to reverse his action. This obviously prompted him to hunt those who dare defy him, culminating in tens of thousands of alternate Thanos armies stepping through the quantum portal. Yet, even in the final confrontation, he meets the wrath of the Avengers with stoic efficiency. Though ultimately Stark defeats him with another snap, his philosophy and myth endure. In the comics, he resurfaces repeatedly. And there, this philosophical obsession is intrinsic. He trains relentlessly, pursuing mastery of telekinesis, energy manipulation, immortality, cosmic awareness, and martial skill, preparing himself as both scientist and warrior. He studied the cosmos, mastering technology and mysticism, traveling across the galaxy to gather artifacts and allies, while his growing ideology isolated him from Titan's other Eternals, who branded him insane and ultimately exiled him. In the MCU, his path is somewhat streamlined yet thematically identical. His feats stretch beyond conventional comparison. He has held the Infinity Gauntlet in his hands and held enough power to snap his fingers. What's more impressive is that he lived to tell the tale. But it doesn't stop there. He fought the Hulk to a bloody standstill on Sakaar, battered Silver Surfer, and at his peak, even outmaneuvered Mephisto. He saves his cosmic soul and manipulates one of Marvel's most metaphysically powerful beings. He goes against even gods like Thor and Odin, and wins. He triumphs over the Elders of the Universe and later plots to seize the Infinity Gauntlet from the Celestials, taking on cosmic superpowers with planning and raw might. When he has the Infinity Gauntlet, he's omnipotent. He snapped away 50% of all life. Instantly, universe universally with no resistance. He's not just strong, he's transcendent. Throughout all depictions, his origin is unified. Born malformed and brilliant, rejected by his own people, he turns that rejection into purpose, believing the universe itself to be flawed. And only he, with his mind and madness, has the clarity to heal it. He is not fueled by hate or conquest, but by obsession. The belief that extinction can deliver salvation, the suffering can be ended with death, that balance is worth any price. His strength is physical, but his true power lies in his intellect over empathy, of logic over love. He is the embodiment of what happens when a twisted mind meets good intention.
Thought by eliminating half of life, the other half would thrive. But you've shown me that's impossible. And as long as there are those that remember what was, there will always be those that are unable to accept what can be.
So let's break it down. In mind and strategy, there simply is no competition. Conquest is brutality personified, a tactician only in the most instinctual way. He knows how to kill, break, and rip apart armies. He's experienced, yeah, but not strategic. He doesn't lay traps. He doesn't plan long term. He charges in, confident that force is always enough. He wins because others can't match his savagery. Thanos is a chess master playing in 12 dimensions. He doesn't just win fights, he ends wars before they begin. He manipulates enemies, dismantles empires, corrupts heroes, and exploits gods. He planned the destruction of his homeworld before he could legally vote. He's outsmarted the cosmic hierarchy more than once. He has deceived death itself. In Infinity, he takes on the Avengers and fleets of armies all at once and manipulates them into fighting each other. The verdict? Thanos wins decisive. Moving on to strength and durability, Conquest has raw strength. He flies through buildings, rips people apart, punches holes through mountains, and laughs while doing it. He can go toe-to-toe with Invincible and Omni-Man at the same time and still dominate. His durability is extreme. You have to detonate a moon on him to slow him down. Even then, he keeps going. Thanos, on the other hand, he has cosmic strength. He has stood against Thor with the power gem and won. He's taken hits from the Hulk like they were mosquito bites. He survived point-blank blasts from Black Bolt and kept moving. He's been stabbed through the chest by Odin's spear and grinned. He tanks reality warping energy without flinching. Conquest doesn't mind a punch from a Viltrumite. Thanos takes a punch from Eternity and laughs. But what happens when we look at speed? Thanos rarely ever moves, but even here, Conquest would have a disadvantage. Conquest has faster than light travel, reflexes that can match anyone in the Invincible universe, and the ability to react and kill mid-flight before his enemies can blink. All of this may be true, but this would pale in comparisons to Thanos. Thanos doesn't often showcase speed, but that's because he doesn't need to. He has battled Silver Surfer, who moves at faster than light speeds, and kept up. He's outmaneuvered Beta Ray Bill and Thor, who can cross galaxies in seconds. People think Thanos is slow because he chooses to walk, not because he has to. He wins this too just because of his cosmic scale feats. He has, after all, been a formidable villain to many heroes and gods alike. Conquest has raw physicality. He's not a power user, no energy projection, no mind attacks, no manipulation of space-time. He is the hammer and the battlefield is the nail. But Thanos, even without the gauntlet, has got energy projection that can rival with Celestials. But that isn't the end of his arsenal. He has telepathy resistance so high that Professor X barely scratches him, matter manipulation when he is empowered by cosmic artifacts, technology from black hole bombs to reality-sealing force fields, access to magic, science, and tech from across the universe. Conquest would fall short just because he would believe his body is enough to win. If you want to win a fist fight, Conquest might make it brutal, but if you want to win a war, Thanos brings everything. It gives him a massive advantage. Now we come to willpower and mentality. Conquest is relentless. He doesn't break, he doesn't yield. The more pain he takes, the more brutal he becomes. He's an addict to violence, and even dying in battle would be worth it to him. But Thanos, he's not just relentless, he's inevitable. His will is a cosmic constant. He stood alone against the Avengers, the X-Men, the Celestials, and reality itself, and still move forward. He doesn't enjoy pain, he endures it because it's necessary, because the universe needs him to be what it cannot, uncompromising. Conquest may love battle, but the foundational beliefs come from being savage. But Thanos doesn't love war. In fact, he may even avoid it if need be. He fights because he deems it necessary. But what if Thanos is stripped away of all of his extra powers? Here we come to their combat styles. Conquest is savage in his style, brutal hand to hand. He fights with teeth bared, fist flying, unhinged, and unrelenting. He's like Battle Beast dialed to 11, tearing arms off mid-punch, fighting dirty, and going straight for the kill. Thanos is precise. He's trained in every known form of combat across the galaxy. He's fought gods, demons, immortals. He uses strength as a tool, not a crutch. When he fights, it's to end you, not just to beat you. Conquest will brawl until his fists are bone. Thanos will shatter your spine in 2 moves. Let's imagine their fight in 2 parts. First, let's say Thanos wasn't just himself. Let's say he had everything. Let's say he wielded the Infinity Gauntlet. The Infinity Gauntlet isn't a power boost. It's not a suit. It's not a weapon. It's a cosmic override. Each stone controls a fundamental aspect of existence.
6 elemental crystals hurtling across the Virgin Universe. These Infinity Stones each control an essential aspect of existence.
Space, reality, power, soul, mind, and time.
The Power Stone, which has infinite strength, enough to shatter galaxies. The Time Stone, which can control, reverse, or erase time itself. The Space Stone, which allows its user to be everywhere and anywhere all at once. The Mind Stone, which can control, erase, or rewrite sentient thought. The Reality Stone, which can alter the laws of physics, logic, and nature. And finally, the Soul Stone, which dominates life and death. With all 6, Thanos becomes a god. Not figuratively, not symbolically, literally. Let's be generous. Let's imagine Conquest survives the first 5 seconds. Which he wouldn't. But for the sake of argument, let's imagine he dodges a beam of cosmic power that annihilates an entire star system. Let's say he closes the distance, grabs Thanos by the throat, and roars like he's about to land the killing blow. Thanos is patient. Conquest cannot phase him. He waits for the right time. Then Thanos stops him. Conquest freezes mid-roar. Thanos rewinds the fight and watches it again. He splits Conquest into infinite versions across space, collapsing them back into a broken heap. He alters reality, turning Conquest's own Viltrumite physiology into glass. Or he simply snaps and deletes Conquest from the multiverse. There is nothing Conquest can do. He doesn't have speed to outrun omnipresence. He doesn't have strength to match infinite force. He doesn't have the will to resist mental domination, and he certainly doesn't have dimensional resistance to tank a universal rewrite. Conquest doesn't lose. He ceases to exist. At the end of the day, Conquest was made to test worlds. Thanos, when he is with the Gauntlet, rebuilds them. He doesn't fight Conquest, he edits him. And even if Conquest survives by some impossible miracle, Thanos could trap him in a time loop like he did to Dormammu. He would make Conquest relive his own death over and over again. Not for days, not for centuries, forever. Because the Infinity Gauntlet doesn't make Thanos unbeatable. It makes him unchallenged. There's no clash, no back and forth, no war, just a thought and then silence. But okay, let's not make Thanos so overpowered. Let's go back and strip Thanos of his Infinity Gauntlet. It's just a dead world cracked by time. No civilians, no armies, no tech, just them. Conquest lands first, a crimson streak through the sky. He cracks the planet beneath his boots. His eyes burn with fury, his smile already forming. He doesn't speak, he launches. Thanos stands still, calculated. The first punch from Conquest breaks the ground beneath them. Thanos slides back, wiping blood from his lip. He nods, then he responds. 1 punch, 2, a grapple. A blast of cosmic energy that melts the atmosphere. Conquest shrugs it off. They collide mid-air, fists hitting like small supernovas. They trade blows across continents. Mountains fall, oceans evaporate. Conquest is faster, angrier, more savage. But Thanos is smarter, stronger, and more prepared. He shifts his stance, traps Conquest's arm, shatters his elbow, drives a knee into his ribs, follows with an energy burst to the face, a knee to the throat, then silence. Thanos raises one hand, glowing with pure energy, a pulse, not from tech, but from him. The energy of dying stars compressed into a single beam. It hits Conquest point blank. The Viltrumite screams, muscles tearing, armor incinerated. Then he drops, burning alive, shaking. Still alive, but only barely. Thanos kneels beside him. He makes sure his opponent is down. Then he turns and walks away. No gloating, no fear, just the quiet certainty of a god who's already seen the outcome. Conquest is destruction, but Thanos is destiny, and destiny always wins.
I am inevitable.
If you liked this video, check out my full breakdown of why Battle Beast vs Superman isn't even close.